At Rangers Ballpark at Arlington for ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Two of the best teams in the American League, the Tigers, led by Miguel Cabrera, taking on Adrian Beltre and the Texas Rangers. This four-game series started Thursday night as the Rangers jumped all over Justin Verlander. 8 runs in just 2 2/3 innings. Texas trounces the Tigers 10-4. Friday night, the Tigers bounced back. Cabrera continued his red-hot start to the season with 3 hits, including an RBI double. He would later score the winning run in a 2-1 Tiger victory. Last night, though, Texas's offense reemerged. Elvis Andrus went 5 for 5, leading the Rangers to a 7-2 win as they chased Tiger starter Anibal Sanchez in the 3rd inning. So the Rangers have won 2 of the first 3. Tonight, the Tigers send one of their best, Doug Fister, to the mound. Texas counters with left-hander Derek Holland. The first pitch is coming up. Final game with the wind gusting out hard here at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. The ball could be flying here tonight as the Tigers and Rangers finish off this 4-game series. Hi, everybody. Dan Shulman, John Crock, Oral Hershiser. The Texas Rangers have the best record in the American League. They've lost some key players from last year. They got a lot of pitchers injured right now, yet still they're 28-15. How are they getting it done?
Well, they're getting it done with a lot of different ways. In the past, they were a team that just tried to outslug you. Now they have the pitching, and now they've figured out a way with the slugging to score runs when they're not hitting home runs. Thursday night, they gave Justin Verlander the worst start of his career. And Saturday, with Ian Kinsler leadoff hitter out, Elvis Andrus steps in. There you see it. 5 for 5, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored, and 2 stolen bases. This is the Texas Rangers team, I think, that has a chance to get back to a World Series and win it.
So we have a team that many consider to be the best in the American League, taking on the hitter most considered to be the best in baseball. As we take a look at the Tigers lineup right now, presented by Taco Bell, it of course includes the reigning Triple Crown winner from a year ago, Oral, Miguel Cabrera.
Miguel Cabrera is the master of adjustments, not only from at-bat to at-bat, but then an at-bat. And then a man that big with that much power to swing so smoothly and not lose his balance. And then a guy that has great command of the strike zone, even knows when to expand the strike zone, like when there's runners in scoring position to use his bat. He's hitting .500 with runners in scoring position. You take last year, he's picked up right where he left off, and arguably he is better.
All right, Oral, thank you. For more, let's go down to field level right now and welcome in Buster Olney.
Dan, Miguel Cabrera is a Hall of Fame caliber player at his absolute peak. Think about watching Babe Ruth in 1927, Ted Williams in 1941, or Hank Aaron in 1959. This is what Miguel Cabrera is in 2013, hitting .376. He told me yesterday he doesn't really like to look at written scouting reports. What he focuses on a lot is what the pitcher's doing early in the game. So right now he's watching Derek Holland warm up. He'll watch him face the first and second hitter and get a feel for what Holland's velocity is. That's when Cabrera will decide what adjustment he wants to make. Dan?
All right, Buster, thank you. The incredible run for Miguel Cabrera over the course of his entire career, including a Triple Crown last year and a back-to-back batting titles the last 2 years. This will not be easy for Derek Holland, but Bulldog, this is maybe a new and improved Derek Holland this year for the Rangers.
Well, he has gotten a lot better. He's bringing back his changeup into the repertoire, and he throws up to 94, 95 miles an hour. But the key pitch for him now this year has been the slider. It has been outstanding. It is a swing and miss pitch that he throws down and in to the back foot of the right-handers.
Again, a very windy night here. The flags are blowing hard in from right field, but what that means in Arlington is the wind hits the grandstand and there's a jet stream going back out toward right field. And we'll see if the hitters are able to take advantage of that tonight. Holland ready to go. Omar Infante in the box. And we are underway with a called strike from home plate umpire Phil Cuzzy. Infante, normally the number 9 hitter, generally speaking for the Tigers, but leading off tonight because Austin Jackson is on the disabled list, the talented center fielder for the Tigers. So Jimmy Leland's having to figure it out at the top of the order and out in center field. And Infante having a terrific year, hitting .309. And the 0-2 sent to left field. Murphy froze, found it, went back, made the catch. So one down here in the top of the first. Murphy got a little more than he bargained for on that fly ball. Still kind of smirking about it as Torrey Hunter makes his way to the plate. The soon to be 38-year-old Torrey Hunter still getting it done, guys, hitting over .300 on the season.
And still enjoying it and having fun doing it.
He's having a big year, and the reason he is using the whole field, if you look at his spray chart, when he hits the ball, he's getting his hits everywhere, left, center, and right.
Well, Derek Holland has thrown 5 pitches. They've all been strikes so far.
Well, that's always been the key with Derek Holland is can he command the strike zone and throw quality strikes? Keeps going like this, we're going to be a quick one.
There's the jinx.
Ah, come on. Like we have something to do with no hitters too.
The 0-2 to Hunter. Got him. 2 down. Let's take a look now at Do More, brought to you by Safeco. Nobody's done more than Miguel Cabrera. Last year hitting .330, 44 homers, 139 RBIs, and this year hitting .373, leading the majors in batting average, leading the majors in RBIs. If possible, he might be having an even better season thus far this year than he did last year when he won the Triple Crown. And if anybody can get the ball up in the air to the opposite field and ride that jet stream right on out of here, it's this guy. And maybe that's why Soto set up inside. Pitch was more to the center of the plate, but they might try to stay inside and get in on the hands of Cabrera.
Yeah, that's a pick your poison. You want him to hit a double down the left field line or a homer to right field. Yeah, that's just how good this guy is.
Derek Holland up to the challenge early.
This is the best time you want to face him. 2 out, nobody on in the first inning. Really can't hurt you. You've got a long way to catch up if he happens to hit one. And Holland is establishing his fastball right now.
It looked like he was setting on a different pitch right there. That fastball was by him.
Just missed.
That's an outstanding pitcher's pitch. If he hits the spot and Cabrera swings, it's going to be an awful hard to hit it. And then there, 0-2. But I'll tell you what, Miguel Cabrera knows the strike zone. He's as accurate as K zone.
It's the first ball thrown by Holland in the inning.
Change up here, Oral.
Change up away in the dirt. Make sure you get it in the dirt.
That's where Soto wants it.
They
missed down and in.
Slider or curveball down there.
You know, a remarkable stat for Holland. He's made 8 starts prior to this one. In those 8 starts, in the 8 first innings, he has not given up a run, and he's allowed only 1 base runner in the 8 first innings that he's pitched so far this year.
We were talking to Jim Leland in his office, and he said one of the great things about, there's a lot of great hitters and real good hitters, but the thing that separates them, the elite of the elite like Cabrera, is they know when a pitcher is trying to get you out with a ball. And Cabrera fell behind 0-2, and look at the 3 takes he's had here, just knowing that probably Holland is not going to throw him a strike. It's one of the harder lessons that the young hitters, as they become the integral part of a lineup, let's say a Bryce Harper or a Mike Trout, as they become the labeled guy, that they have to learn that the pitchers are not going to throw them as many strikes as when they were the unknown.
Base hit into left field for Cabrera after Holland had him 0-2.
Why does he get a hit on 3-2? Because he was able to work the count back to that.
Well, there's a 3-2 pitch, and that borderline pitch down and in, but yeah, this is what makes this guy so great. You know, you see the short leg kick, you see the head down on the ball, just a perfect swing. It did get in on him a little bit, but that's a 3-2 protect swing. You know, you don't know if he's going to throw changeup, slider, especially with him. They can throw anything, so he protects with the inside-out swing. Just happened to get in front of it and pull it.
Now Prince Fielder. The best 3-4 combo in baseball. Miguel Cabrera and a Prince Fielder. Cabrera leading the American League in RBIs. Fielder is 4th in the American League in RBIs. And he is baseball's current Iron Man as well. 0-2. Boy, Holland does look sharp.
Yeah, that slider low and away to lefties, and he back foots it to righties. So when he throws his slider, he really only has 1 point that he's looking to go to, no matter what the hitter, where the hitter is standing on which side of the box. He doesn't care. It's going to go down and into righties and away to lefties.
It's an interesting slide step with Miguel Cabrera on first base, even though he's not being held on by Moreland. Why would you slide step there?
I think the slide step was to mess with Prince Fielder's timing, more or less, not the base runner. I think it was a slide step fastball. He's just kind of surprising him, get a little flinch swing. Didn't work. He didn't get him even close.
Moreland backing off again. 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss to get Fielder and end the inning. A base hit by Cabrera, but nothing more against the left-hander in the top of the first. Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. Your local Steel dealer. Visit steeldealers.com and ING. Heading to the bottom of the first here in Arlington. No score between the Detroit Tigers and the Texas Rangers. And time now to take a look at the starting lineup for the Rangers. Brought to you by Taco Bell. The Rangers right now are 7th in the American League in runs scored. But Elvis Andrus is doing everything he can. Had a great night last night. 5 for 5. Scored 3 runs, stole a couple of bases. And a guy who has picked it up and then some. Mitch Moreland, who used to be the number 9 in runners team. Now has 7 home runs in his last 13 games. 10 home runs already on the season. But a guy who hardly ever gives up home runs is on the mound tonight for the Tigers, Oral, and that's big right-hander Doug Fister.
Well, Big is right, and it's really exceptional that this guy can have such great athletic ability in that size body and repeat his delivery, be so consistent, keeps the ball down, he can sink it, he can cut it, and he's got an exceptional curveball. And it's going to be a challenge today because he's going to want all those ground balls that he can get with this wind blowing out here in Texas.
Andrus, David Murphy, Lance Berkman, the top third of the order for the Rangers. And a strike at the knees. Andrus just every year, Kruk, he seems to get a little bit better. Just does everything a little bit better than he did the year before.
Yeah, he really does, and that's the exciting thing, and that's probably why they signed him to that long-term deal. You know, even though they have Profar, a young kid who's going to be called up because Kinsler run on the disabled list. The shortstop in waiting, they thought, and everyone thought, well, they'll just let Andrus walk, and they see what he can do. They see what he's capable of doing. They see how much better he's getting, how much better he's going to continue to get, and he's comfortable here in Texas.
0-2 is just outside, and you saw Profar between pitches. As Crucky mentioned, Ian Kinsler's gone on the DL today with a strained intercostal muscle, a muscle in his side, in his ribcage. And Jurickson Profar, the highly touted prospect, is in the big leagues right now and is going to get a chance to play some second base for Texas over the next couple of weeks. So look at his numbers at AAA. 2-2. Curveball and a check swing foul off, and we've already seen, Oral, I believe, a changeup, a sinker, a cutter, and a curveball from Fister in this first at bat.
Yeah, Doug is emptying the toolbox right here, the first batter. When a guy goes 5 for 5 the night before, and you're in a very offensive ballpark, just trying to get outs, not worried about saving bullets. And Fister, as Buster talked about Miguel Cabrera, he's not a scouting report guy either. He's a guy that just uses a little bit, but he's mainly a feel guy into his own ability and what is working for him, and then he applies it to the hitter. He doesn't start with the hitter's scouting report. He starts with himself.
Change up low, full count. He has not had a lot of success against Texas, and especially in this ballpark. Has made 2 starts here in Arlington, one as a Mariner, one as a Tiger, neither one of them going well. But Fister, when he's on, is among the best. Got it.
Bottom just dropped out of that sinker. 89 miles an hour and still going straight down. You get average to slightly above average big league velocity, but this is unbelievable movement. Gets his fingers to the left side of the ball. The rotation of that ball takes that thing plummeting down. A lot of ground balls and also swings and misses.
You see the difference between the 2-3-2 swings between Andrus, a leadoff hitter with not a lot of power, and Miguel Cabrera.
Murphy with a chopper. Fister giving chase. Can't get it. Throw to first. Not in time. Infield hit Murphy.
There's a lot of athleticism on the mound, but even if Fister gets to this ball, he's probably not going to be able to throw anybody out. And Infante makes a nice attempt at it, just having Fister as really a blockade there. Just a fortunate bounce for the Rangers and an unfortunate placement for the Tigers, but a good effort all around.
Well, you saw the bounce, too. It bounced to Infante's right, so he had to go back and try to get it, so his momentum wasn't carrying him toward first.
So Murphy aboard with 1 out in the bottom of the first, and here's one of the newcomers to the Rangers this year, Lance Berkman, hitting .299 on the season, the Rangers' primary DH. Now remember what the Rangers lost from last year's team. Mike Napoli, Michael Young, and of course Josh Hamilton. But in comes Berkman, putting up solid numbers as always, and universally regarded as one of the best teammates, one of the best guys in the clubhouse in all of baseball. And he's been doing it for a long time from both sides of the plate. If his legs will allow him to get up to the plate, he's gonna hit.
There's no question. I think the only time I ever saw him where he didn't hit is when he was with the Yankees, and it was a struggle, and he just wasn't right. And St. Louis got him right, and now he's here in Texas. And they think, along with he and A.J. Pierzynski, they can make up for the numbers of Josh Hamilton, Michael Young. But A.J. decided, since he's watching and critiquing us tonight, that he decided to catch in Frisco tonight. Not San Francisco.
Frisco, Texas. A.J. Pierzynski on the DL with a strained oblique, eligible Tuesday. He's going to catch Colby Lewis tomorrow in a minor league game.
DH this afternoon.
Yep.
He was here taking batting practice yesterday and hitting him into the upper deck, and he was like shouting coming out of the cage, "Change the lineup, activate me."
Full count. Well, you got Murphy, the runner at first.
Send him.
Yep, got to, right?
Yep. Yeah, you got to trust that Berkman will put it in play, because with the sinker ball, if he puts in play on the ground and Murphy's not running, you have a double play, even though he is the big Puma.
Rod Washington doesn't like to just sit back and wait for the home run, although they do hit a lot of home runs. He likes to make things happen, likes to run. There he goes. Strike three called, throw down, and a strike him out, throw him out, double play to end the bottom of the first. No score at the end of one. A closer look at a Miguel Cabrera when we come back.
Yo soy Miguel Cabrera y esta es mi posición. Cuando llegué a Grandes Ligas era un sueño hecho realidad, pero siempre escuchaba muchos consejos de mucha gente que iba a pasar por el logro y siempre me decía que la constancia y la decisión todos los días era lo que me iban a mantener en las Grandes Ligas. Ganar esa titularidad es algo que nunca pensaba en mi carrera, nunca pasó por mi mente. Una experiencia inolvidable, yo pienso que fue algo que impactó no solamente la vida mía, sino la vida de muchos venezolanos, que en realidad se sienten orgullosos del trabajo que hemos hecho aquí. En la carrera de un buen pelotero no es lo que se hace en el pasado, sino lo que siempre puede hacer en el presente, y eso es lo que tengo presente, tratar de ayudar a mi equipo en lo que estamos haciendo ahorita y tratar de tener una buena temporada.
Now he's one of the game's most remarkable talents, putting up extraordinary numbers both as a Marlin and as a Tiger. Incidentally, in two parks, guys, that are favorable to pitchers, not to hitters. Yep. The two home parks that he's played in his career. Imagine what the numbers would be like if he played in a bandbox. Imagine what they'd be like if he played here his whole career. Here's Victor Martinez. And strike taken by the Tiger DH. Missed all of last season after knee surgery. After a great year in 2011. Hit .330, drove in over 100 runs. Still, Jim Leyland says, getting into a rhythm. Still trying to get his timing back here in 2013. But if he gets back, Crucky, to be in the Victor Martinez of 2011, now you're looking at an unbelievable lineup. They're already the highest scoring team in the American League this year, and that's with Martinez hitting .216.
Yeah, they're going to be a lot more dangerous. And not that he's a big power guy. He's not. But he's an RBI guy. He knows how to drive in runs, and he knows how to drive in critical runs.
And he's the guy in your lineup that they always counted on that could hit the ace of the opposing team in the big outings when the guy was out there just mowing people down, that he would be the guy that knows when to step out and to break a pitcher's rhythm or really battle for an at-bat. It's going to be quite a lineup to go through the middle when he starts getting hot.
You can see the wind. You can see it whipping the jerseys of Holland and of Martinez and everybody else on the field, and the flags are just gusting. As strong a wind maybe as we've seen here in the games we've done. And again, the flags are blowing in, but that means there's a wind tunnel blowing out in this ballpark. Deep in the hole. Long throw by Andrus in time to get him.
If Infante's running, if Hunter's running, even if Prince Fielder's running or somebody else like Peralta, you just put it in your pocket. But with Victor Martinez and his legs, Andrus, he just stays with the play and shows off his strong arm, and it is an accurate throw also with the acrobatics to get it there.
I think that's what's amazing. I don't think people realize how far of a throw that is, and to do that jumping with no legs underneath you, and you throw it all the way in the air. A lot of guys will try to bounce it. I mean, Derek Jeter, of course, is the one who, in our era, made that play popular, and Elvis Andrus just picking up on that.
One down for Matt Tuiasosopo, the left fielder for the Tigers tonight. Tuiasosopo getting a chance primarily to play against left-handers. He's had a couple of big games. Had a 5 RBI game a couple of weeks ago. Had a 3-run homer earlier this week. With Austin Jackson out, they've got Hunterman right. They've got Avisail Garcia, who's been called up. He's played some center. He's in center tonight. He can also play the corners. They've got Don Kelly. They've got Andy Dirks, Tuiasosopo. Kind of a mix and match in left and center right now for the Tigers.
Tuiasosopo in batting practice was hitting balls into the second deck the other way. Of course, you mentioned the wind, but I don't care how hard the wind's blowing. That's still a long way for a righty to hit one.
A called strike, 2-2.
Of course, Derek Holland wasn't throwing BP, was he? At 94 away, a little tougher to hit than 60 down the middle.
Than Tom Brookins?
Yeah.
Down and in, full count. Well, Derek Holland's such an important guy for Texas. They've got so many injuries to their pitching staff right now. Matt Harrison's had a couple of back surgeries, won't be back until at least after the All-Star break. Colby Lewis is still on the DL. Holland really the number 2 guy, you would say, right now, with Yu Darvish having an incredible season. There's ball 4 inside. And remember, this Texas Rangers staff leads the American League in ERA right now without all of these guys. Alexi Ogando just went on the DL. Neftali Feliz and Joaquim Soria have yet to pitch this year for the Rangers. But imagine what the staff could look like in a few weeks or a couple of months.
Well, they've done a great job developing their own, too. They have 7 guys on this staff that are homegrown from the Rangers, and they have a bunch of guys that have great arms. John Daniels and Mike Maddox have done a great job as a pitching coach. But to think a Texas Ranger ball club at any time during the season would be leading the American League at the quarter pole in ERA, a lot of that has to do with that guy right there leading the major leagues in strikeouts, Yu Darvish.
86 strikeouts in 60 2/3 innings, a 7-1 record for Darvish. The Rangers' overall team ERA is 3.38. Their ERA here at home is 2.61 this year.
Wow.
Colby Lewis will be coming back maybe in 2 or 3 starts.
Into left center field, a base hit and maybe more. Tuiasosopo on his way to third. He will be held there, and gliding into second base is Johnny Peralta with a double.
Johnny Peralta off to a good start so far this season, 317. It's just a fastball up in the strike zone that Peralta jumps on, and Tuiasosopo got a great jump, but they got to that ball so quickly. And what happens is he overthrows the cutoff man, but since the outfielder got it so quickly, the center fielder, you had to hold him right there because you couldn't anticipate a bad throw.
So second and third, one out for the Tigers here at the top of the second, and the batter was the catcher, Brian Pena. Alex Avila getting a night off. The left-hand hitting Avila really struggling, and with a tough left-hander on the mound in Holland. Pena's in there. Avila's down to 179. Ground ball weakly hit to the right side. Coming home is Moreland. The block at the plate and out. Here's Tuiasosopo.
That's a great play by Moreland, or by Soto. Well, you watch this play right here, and this is the decision Mitch Moreland made off the bat. I'm going home with this ball. A great play, though, by Soto to get a short hop and then get the play. But you see Moreland right here. He caught the ball. He didn't catch it flat-footed. He caught it coming in so he can make a good, strong throw. And Soto, right, I mean, that's a brick wall. I don't care how big Tuiasosopo is. He wasn't getting through that one.
So it's scored as a fielder's choice. Nice play on both ends by the Rangers. And the end result is first and third, 2 down. For the number 9 hitter, Avisail Garcia. A little meeting on the mound between Soto and Holland. With Pierzynski on the DL, Soto getting a chance to play regularly over the last couple of weeks. Soto trying to get the attention of Adrian Beltre down at third. He's given the signals on how they're going to play things defensively. And I think Beltre was having a good old conversation with Johnny Peralta.
It happens. No one listens to catchers anyway.
Here's Garcia. Young, talented player who reminds some, I think, more physically than in terms maybe of his potential, of Miguel Cabrera. And he is kind of like a little brother to Miguel Cabrera. And Oral, we saw him, Garcia, last year. He gives a good at bat. He's got a strong arm. But they had to call him up when Jackson went on the DL.
And his batting stance, his approach at the plate is very much like Miguel Cabrera, almost like a mini-me.
Well, you remember last year when he got called up, Miguel Cabrera gave him spikes, so he was using Miguel spikes, the high pants, the pants leg up by the knee, like Miguel has a tendency to wear them. And I mean, everything he did, you couldn't tell with BP who was who.
A slight difference in the scale, and if you got to see their paychecks.
Well, and Jim Leland told us, ideally we'd have liked to got him 500 at bats this year in AAA, but due to injury, they didn't have a choice. They had to get him back up, get him up here to try to help the big league team.
And then he's filled in very well in center field. He's played all 3 positions in the minor leagues.
I mean, every center fielder 6'4", 240.
Yeah.
Holland the set. 1-2. Got it. The changeup to strike him out and end the inning. Adrian Beltre will lead it off for the Rangers when we come back. CEO of the Texas Rangers, Nolan Ryan, in the first row. Right behind him in the second row is the president and general manager of the Texas Rangers, John Daniels. Looking on this warm, windy night here in Arlington. The Rangers have taken two of the first three in this series from the Tigers. Texas with the best record in the American League at 28-15, tied with the Cardinals for the best record in all of baseball. St. Louis winning again today. The batter Adrian Beltre, who has been hot lately, hitting .381 in his last 15 games. We're back away from that inside pitch from Pfister, who's not afraid to come inside of the right-handers. Here he comes again. And Orel, he's hit 10 batters this year.
He's only walked 8. He's hit more than he's walked. He's hit more than the whole rest of the staff, and I think he's hit more than 3 other teams.
Well, he gets 3 balls on a guy and decides to hit him. But
no, I just think he's not afraid to come in. And a tremendous amount of movement. So with that sinker to righties, he really chases the right-hander. If he gets underneath it and it doesn't go down, it starts running at him. And then he hits people with his curve ball and his cutter, the lefties, because the ball's coming in on them.
And the crossfire action has to be a little unnerving to some righties.
Yeah. He's going to need a new bat, I think, after that pitch. No?
I don't think he hit it well enough to break it.
It was on the hands.
You can see Pfister really likes to dictate the pace of the game. He is always ready to go. Beltre taking a little time to get back into the box. Pfister shakes off his catcher 4 times. Didn't get that ball in as far as he would like, and Beltre fights it off for a base hit and is on his way to second.
Well, Doug Pfister really does a good job with the sequence of pitching Adrian Beltre in, and they're even having a little tongue-in-cheek out there by second base. But he goes fastball down, trying to get the ground ball, and then goes back up and in. That one Adrian had a grunt on, then he keeps working him inside. These right-handed hitters, you pitch them away, they hit the routine fly ball to right field with this wind blowing out. So these pitchers are really pounding the right-handers inside, and Adrian doesn't get any part of this at all on the barrel. It's all fist and a little bit of wind that got it out there in no man's land.
So a leadoff double for Beltre, and the batter was the right fielder Nelson Cruz. Got a lot of power, 11 home runs on the season, just 8 for his last 48, but as you can see there, 5 of those 8 hits have been home runs, so he has still been very productive this year. Chopper towards third, charged by Cabrera, play on to first, and in behind him to third goes Beltre.
Yeah, normally you'd like to see Nelson Cruz, even though he's a power guy, hit the ball the other way, try to drive something the other way to get Beltre over with no outs. But Adrian Beltre, this is a veteran right here. You see, Cabrera has to come in on the ball. You see how deep he was playing. And Beltre, once he saw Cabrera pass the baseline, he just took off, knowing that even though Cabrera can catch it, there's no way he's going to turn around and get it, and he was going to beat Peralta to the bag because Peralta has to hold his ground.
Now let me ask you guys, are you surprised in this ballpark, 2 good offenses, second inning, and the infield's coming in? You surprised at all?
Well, I'm not, because Doug Pfister gives up a lot of balls that are weakly hit. So you get the routine grounder, you might even get the real weak one, like we saw Adrian Beltre's double. So I think they're thinking it's going to be a quality outing, even if there's wind or no wind.
A sign of respect, too, maybe for Derek Holland from Jim Leyland, the way that Holland's throwing the ball in the early going. There's Mitch Moreland.
Yeah, or the fact that maybe Jim Leyland's not, you're always concerned with the lineup, but maybe he's not as concerned with Soto and Gentry coming up, so he thinks, okay, if he sneaks a single past the drawn in infield, he still should be able to get out of the inning.
Ball 2 to Moreland, a very hot hitter. 7 home runs in his last 13 games.
Yeah, when he realized there were hits out in left field and it kept him back, he's always had power to all fields, but once he opened up the left field side, it really kept him on the ball to hit the right, and he has become an outstanding hitter right now.
Moreland, by all accounts, really dedicated himself in the offseason, lost some weight, got in the best shape of his career as well.
I think he finally realized that, it's time. He's been given a lot of opportunities to take that everyday position at first base and run with it, and he just hasn't done it. And hopefully this is the year he does it.
Right center field. Caught by Hunter. Tagging Beltre. Throw to the plate, up the line, and the run scores to give the Rangers a 1-0 lead. One to nothing Texas. Let's go down to the field. Here's Buster.
Guys, Doug Fister and Adrian Beltre were teammates in Seattle, so Fister knows about Beltre's little thing he's got about people touching his head. After he hit that bloop double, he touched him on the head because he knows Beltre doesn't like it. Now, what I'm told by other players is that Beltre likes his hair and doesn't like anyone messing up his hair.
And you'll see after Beltre hits a home run, when one of his teammates takes his batting helmet off as he goes down the steps into the dugout, everybody tries to go touch the top of his head. And I mean, he's not kidding around. He is seriously angry when somebody does that.
Well, everybody around the league knows Albert Pujols. All of his friends around the league, and he's finally starting to loosen up and laugh about it.
There's a strike, 2-1 the count on Giovanni Soto, the catcher tonight. Soto hit a big 3-run homer off Justin Verlander on Thursday. The Rangers really roughed up Verlander. Knocked him out in the 3rd inning, and they knocked Anibal Sanchez out in the 3rd inning last night. Verlander 2 2/3, 8 runs, 2 bases loaded walks in that game.
I had a chance to spend some time with Justin on the first day and got to interview him and hang out with him a little bit. And he said everybody was so worried about my velocity. I worked hard on it in my bullpen. I got the velocity back and was hitting 97. I just couldn't hit nice spots. And it was the best April of my career, even though my velocity was slightly down.
Soto rips one into left field, a base hit.
We had a good side work, Justin Verlander did, and feels like he's back on the beam and ready to go. And Jim Leland says the only news about Justin Verlander is the fact that he's starting Wednesday in Cleveland. If I have to worry about Justin Verlander, then I should just give up my job.
Verlander's ERA went from under 2 to over 3 with that one start. But as you say, neither Leland nor Verlander seems concerned at all. It's a big couple of games coming up for the Tigers against the Indians Tuesday and Wednesday in Cleveland. The Indians are as hot as any team in baseball right now, as Craig Gentry looks at a strike. Cleveland won again today, beat Seattle 6-0. Justin Masterson struck out 11. Michael Brantley hit a home run. The Indians roughed up Felix Hernandez, and the Tribe has won 17 of its last 21.
Felix left his last start in New York, I believe, with a back issue with a little collision with Lyle Overbay.
And look at those American League Central Division standings. The Tigers are looking up at the first place Indians right now. Terry Francona's gang took 2 out of 3 from Detroit last week, and they got a quick 2-gamer with them this week.
So we had the Fighting Showalters, and now we've got the Fighting Franconas.
Fighting Tito's, yeah. Carlos Santana, one of the game's great young catchers. Masterson, the ace of the staff, having a great year. Deep bullpen.
Baldo Jimenez might have found his split finger again, which would help him. And Kazmir is averaging 91.5 miles an hour. Has touched 93, 94 over there in Cleveland.
And with that being said, that's my concern with this team playing 162 games. Can that starting staff last?
Gentry fights it off.
You're talking about the Cleveland Indians staff,
yes.
Not the Tigers staff.
No,
because
I'm not worried about the Tigers. I just, Cleveland staff, Masterson's been great. And, he's pitching inside more to lefties, which he had to. He's throwing a cutter now inside the lefties, which is a great weapon. But can Ubaldo do it? Can Kazmir do it for 30 starts? That's a lot of big ifs.
Zach McAllister having a nice year in the rotation for the Indians as well.
And the bullpen there's been pretty locked down. Chris Perez at the end.
Gary Pettis making some friends. Gentry getting a start, even though he's kind of in a platoon with Leonis Martin out in center field. The Rangers are in a stretch of seeing 9 consecutive right-handed pitchers. So Martin sits. Ron Washington doesn't want to let Gentry sit for too long. So he gets him in there against a right-handed batter tonight, keep him fresh. Fly ball to center to end the inning. The Rangers get a run, lead 1-0. Baseball Tonight update coming up. So's Miguel Cabrera in the top of the third. All right, Carl, guys, thanks very much. And again, a big series between the Indians and Tigers coming up Tuesday and Wednesday in Cleveland. Here, the Tigers, who have lost 2 of 3 so far to Texas in this series, trailing 1-0 as we go to the top of the third. And the top of the order will come up for Detroit. Omar Infante, Torrey Hunter, and then Miguel Cabrera. Infante with a flying ball to left field his first time up. Acquired along with Anibal Sanchez midseason last year, so his first full year with the Tigers, really stabilizing second base offensively and defensively.
Lurking.
Down the left field line, a fair ball. Murphy giving chase. Infante around second, puts the brakes on, and will settle for a leadoff double.
Omar Infante's always been a hitter that knows his own ability, really never comes out of his game. Great bat control and understands what a pitcher is trying to do to him. And when he gets that high fastball, he top hands it down in that corner. He did very, very well right there.
That looked like to me it's a situation where Holland just going to, like his first at bat, just keep pumping fastballs in there and see what happens. And he hit the ball hard to left field to Murphy, his first at bat. I want to change that up. Is that the Miguel effect? I can't put this guy on because what's coming up behind him?
I'll tell you what, first base is not open when that guy's in the on-deck circle.
Torrey Hunter, the batter. Ground ball to the left side. Throw to third is wide of the bag. So in there safely is Infante. Beltre with no chance to get back and try to put a tag on the runner, and everybody is safe.
That's a throw that an infielder rarely makes, huh, John?
Yeah, they rarely make the throw. He never practiced it in infield, but this it's a base running mistake by Infante. He thought the ball was going to go through. Apparently he forgot the range that Elvis Andrus has, but he got lucky right there with the wide throw to Beltre, and he sneaks in there. Now the potential of a big inning, which could have been the demise of an inning at all if he'd have been thrown out at third. But yeah, aggressive, let's make something happen, and he forced a mistake by Andrus.
And it has scored a base hit for Hunter. So runners on the corners, nobody out. For the game's best hitter, Miguel Cabrera had a base hit to left field his first time up. First pitch swinging, and he drills it. Deep right center field and way out of here. Jet stream or no jet stream, fellas. That's 440 feet the other way.
Talking to Jim Leland before the game, come up with another adjective about Miguel Cabrera. Well, a big guy that is still very elastic, who has great power and great balance and rarely overswings. And he just put a normal, everyday swing on that and hit it a mile.
3-1 Tigers. Prince Fielder, the batter for Cabrera, his 9th home run of the season. He's 3 back at the American League lead. RBIs number 43, 44, and 45. 45 RBIs. This is the Tigers' 42nd game.
Al Kaline, who travels with the Tigers and is always at their home games, was asked if Miguel Cabrera reminded him of anybody that he's ever played or seen. And he said, no one. He is that special.
They've estimated the home run at 441 feet.
What?
Just the 3rd home run allowed by Derek Holland in 9 starts this season. Swinging to miss by Fielder, 2-2.
And that's been a great thing for Derek Holland. He gave up 32 last year, so you're not just hitting it off anybody, Miguel. You hit it off a pitcher that is on his game. You're hitting everybody when you're doing that.
Look at the gap between him and everybody else in RBI since the beginning of last season.
Well, he was hitting 500, 27 for 54 with runners in scoring position coming into this game, and runners were in scoring position there, and making 28 for 55.
And you wonder if Infante stayed at second base and they threw Torre out at first, if they even think about pitching to him. That's why, yep. Maybe that's why Infante said, let's take a chance here.
Ground ball to first. Fielder retired, 1 down to Buster on the field.
Clarky, I might have the answer for you. I was talking to Ron Washington about that before the game, and he said, you know, in this series that he really hadn't gotten a chance to pitch around Miguel Cabrera. Well, as you say, that might have been an opportunity right there if the inning had played out differently.
But they had to pitch to him, and on the very first pitch that he saw, Cabrera launched one well over the 407 sign in deep right center field for home run number 9.
And home runs is the only category he's not leading the league in, as far as the Triple Crown is concerned. Again,
give him time.
2 players have won 2 Triple Crowns in their careers. Rogers Hornsby, Ted Williams. Nobody has ever won the Triple Crown in consecutive years.
No one has even led the 2 of the 3 categories the next year.
But the more you watch him, guys, the more you think that we're watching not just a great hitter, not just a potential Hall of Famer, but I mean a guy who's got a chance to be right at the top of the heap in the Hall of Fame. If he can stay healthy and have another 10 years in the big leagues, he's got a chance to put up numbers that'll rival just about anybody's in the game.
Yeah, is it Ted Williams' best year? Is it Babe Ruth's best year? Is it Frank Robinson's best year? Whose best year? This guy's having his own best couple years. This is the prime of the prime.
He's 30 years of age. There for a strike, 2-2 on Victor Martinez.
still marveling that it was only 441 feet because it went over the 407 sign. Then it cleared the bullpens, which that has to be another, what, 30 feet?
Yeah, 20, 30 feet.
And you're trying to tell me that where it landed, it's another, what, just 11 feet? Come on. And halfway up that stairwell up there. Got to talk to those people.
Strike three called. Martinez thinking it was up and in. 2 down in the inning. Well, we talked about some of the great career accomplishments that Miguel Cabrera has had. He's a long way, maybe about halfway through his career. But if you compare Cabrera after the exact same number of games to Hank Aaron, look at how remarkably similar the numbers are in so many different categories.
Wow. Anytime
you wind up in a 2-headshot graphic with Hank Aaron, you're having yourself a pretty good career. Let's take another look, Crocky, at where this lands. Cleared the wall with plenty to spare.
They cleared the bullpen with plenty to spare. I mean, just by the trained eye from golfing every day.
And he does mean every day.
So you laser that point and you're going, no, it's farther.
Yeah, I mean, I would put it this way. If it read 441 feet or however many yards that is, I would take an extra club because I would think the laser was wrong.
As a pitcher, you're glad when they go that far because you hate the paint scrapers against the wall. If they're going to hit them, let them hit them a long way. They all count the same.
3-0 on Matt Tuiasosopo. Usually when the opposing team hits a home run that gives them the lead, it gets quieter in the ballpark. But they've been buzzing here ever since Cabrera hit that ball out.
I think people are realizing, fans around baseball, that they're seeing one of the greatest ever.
Full count.
It's a pleasure for, I know myself personally, but you know, when we have our meetings, we talk every time we do Tigers game. He dominates the talk because of the things he does day in and day out.
You know, the other thing Jim Leland said about him as he sits there on the bench, admiring probably some of his own work and thinking about that at bat, is just the effortless perfection of his swing, and also that he's not a grunter. He's a hitter with great power.
Ball 4. Tuiasosopo walks for the second time tonight. This has been one of the areas of improvement, Oral, for Derek Holland. Coming into the game tonight, 48 strikeouts, only 11 walks, but he's already walked 2 here in this game.
Yeah, he's having a good year. He might have a rough start here today, and he's got to battle them. You give up runs in this ballpark, but you can't give up mentally. And that's one of the things he really worked on in the offseason, is his mental outlook on the game and being more focused on baseball, more baseball-centric. And I'm sure Mike Maddox reminding him of that this is going to be a long game. We've got a chance to score a lot of runs tonight. Just get us in the dugout. But his focus is the main thing that he worked on in the offseason and in spring training, of just being a better professional.
So a tough third inning here for Holland, and he's not out of it yet. A runner at first, 2 down for Johnny Peralta, having a very strong season. Peralta hitting .322 and hitting almost .400 against lefties entering the game tonight. Doing more with the bat, a little more range out at short, it seems, this year for Peralta.
Interesting to watch Holland right after the visit with Maddox. He comes back with a first pitch changeup. Maybe Mike Maddox reminding him that harder is not always better, and you've been really kind of trying to win with your slider and your fastball, and you've forgotten which has been your best pitch this year as far as your out pitch, and why you're much better is your changeup. Another off-speed pitch away. One of the things he has changed this year is his ratios on his pitches, and he's upgraded the number of sliders he's throwing, and he's up the number of changeups he's throwing. and he's not so fastball heavy. He has been a little fastball heavy in this game so far.
Just 26 years of age, a 16-game winner 2 years ago, won 12 last year. His high point probably that game of the World Series back in 2011, 8 1/3, 2 hits. Pitch in the dirt, and down to second goes Tuiasosopo. Be a wild pitch, charged to Holland.
These are the kind of innings that young pitchers, as you develop and you're starting to get high grades at 26 years old, that you've got to battle through. And you fight yourself and you get through the inning, and then hopefully, like a boxer, which he's a huge boxing fan, you get back in your corner, you think through it, and you come out for the next round. But you want to come out before you get knocked out.
Inning over. But it's a productive inning for the Detroit Tigers with the game's best hitter, Miguel Cabrera, launching the ball at least 441 feet to deep right center field off Derek Holland on the first pitch that he saw from the left-hander. Watch it go as the Tigers take the lead. Bottom of the third inning here in Arlington. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. 3-1 Tigers. Good change up there, and it's 0-2. And the curveball bounces in, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Leury Garcia at second base for Texas. Ian Kinsler, if you missed it earlier, was placed on the DL today. Strained muscle in his side will cost him 15 days. Jurickson and Profar has been called up, and he'll get some time at second base. Pfister gets a ground ball. That is his specialty. He retires Garcia for out number 1. Oral mentioned sitting down with Justin Verlander. We asked him what makes Doug Pfister so effective.
The movement on his pitches. You know, he's 6'8", and he throws from very high, and so everything's just down, down, down. And you know, his ability to sink it and cut it and keep guys off balance, both sides of the plate, sink it, cut it, flip the occasional curveball in there. You know, just the art of pitching.
And I'll tell you what, he really admires Doug Fister and his growth as a pitcher since he's come over here from Seattle. And they absolutely, this whole staff loves each other, competes against each other, and they compete in all different ways. Not just pitching and pitching for the same team and trying to beat each other that way, but on the plane, if they're playing any card games, if they're going to talk about who's picking the winners in all the different sports around the country, these guys love to compete.
For recreational purposes only, of course.
Exactly.
Just a breaking ball that Andrews spins out of the way of.
Anibal Sanchez right there on the end.
Over the last 2+ years, you can see how good he's been. Now, he was 3-12 with Seattle when the Tigers got him in the deal in July of 2011, but his ERA was 3.33. He got no run support, which is why he had a 3-12 record with the Mariners. He comes over to the Tigers and he goes 8-1 with a 1.79 ERA the rest of that season.
And you're bringing him from a pitcher's park to another pitcher's park in Detroit, so it wasn't like, you know, you're not sure if the stats are going to play out. And scouts did a great job. And I think Jeff Jones, the pitching coach for the Tigers, has done a great job since he got here. You know, he doesn't get a lot of credit. It's kind of like, oh, they brought all these great arms over here, but he has a very quiet spirit about him and gets his point across very quickly and gets these guys thinking about pitching.
It's a fair ball. And safe at first is Andrews. He slips on his way to second, but he'll still be in there with ease. As Cabrera made a good play to get to that ball, but it bounced the throw across the diamond.
That's one of those do-or-die plays by both Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder because of the speed of Elvis Andrus. Hits this ball down the line, and Cabrera he makes a great play to get to the ball, and he has to make that off-balance throw because he knows he has no choice. And if you're going to record it out, Prince Fielder has to come up with that with the pick at first base. He gets underneath his glove, and now Andrus ends up on second base with one out. But there's nothing Cabrera can do. He sets his feet. That takes too long. Andrus is safe. He makes a throw like that. He makes it low. Prince tries to come up with a scoop. Everything about that play had disaster written all over it because every play from Cabrera to Fielder, they both had to be exceptional plays.
It is a single and an error. A base hit for Andrus, then a throwing error charged to Cabrera. Runner at second, one out, 3-1 Tigers. And the batter is David Murphy, the left fielder, had an infield hit his first time up. Murphy started off the season very cold, has been heating up lately. He's just now gotten his average over 200 in the last couple of days, but he's got to be feeling pretty comfortable. You can see the numbers that he's got in his career against Fister. Most of those numbers accumulated when Fister was with Seattle, so in the same division as Texas.
And more home runs off Doug Fister than any player in baseball. You wouldn't expect. Must be a good low ball hitter.
Change up low, ball 2. Jim Leland's Tigers second place in the American League Central, the defending American League champions. High hopes again this year. Sharply hit to short, spinning and firing onto the bag is Peralta for out number 2. Andrews to third.
It's a nice play by Johnny Peralta, who doesn't get a lot of compliments for his everyday defense, but balls that he gets to, he has really shored himself up in the last couple of years as being a solid defensive shortstop out there. And they need him to be good because we saw on the corners, 2 Gold Glovers probably make the play, but you know, when you have 2 average to below average fielders at the corners like the Tigers do, they've got to make the play every once in a while up the middle to protect those guys.
Breaking ball fouled off by Berkman, and the count is 0-1. Berkman caught looking in the first inning on the front end of a strike him out, throw him out double play that ended the inning.
I think too, we talk about their infield, and the guy with the most range, of course, is Infante, and Peralta's limited range wise, and of course the 2 corner guys. I think that's why you have a veteran pitching staff, a starting staff that hopefully they can execute pitches where they're and pitch to their defense. You know, 2 or 3 years ago, everyone said Derek Jeter's lost it. He has no range. You know, but he was playing with a bunch of injured veteran guys were injured. A lot of younger pitchers in the rotation. and he was out of position because they didn't pitch to where he was supposed, where the scouting report said to.
It's a lot easier to play defense when you got a pitching staff that can hit their spots.
And when Fister's on, he can do that about as well as anybody. Curveball low, 3-1. Adrian Beltre on deck should the inning continue.
He's on deck, but he's in the wrong place. I'd have the umpire move him to the on deck circle. I hated it when hitters were there.
Chopper to second. And Fister gets out of it as Andrews is stranded at third. So 3 complete in Arlington, with the Tigers up 3-1. Jim Leland knows he's got a good team. They've had a lot of success in recent years trying to take that final, that ultimate step and win the World Series, something the Tigers have not done since 1984. They're up 3-1 here tonight. 23-18 on the season. Ryan Pena, the catcher, leads off the fourth against Derek Holland. Pena, Avisail Garcia, and then back to the top of the order for Omar Infante. A little bit low, 2-0. The wind continues to gust here in Arlington, as it often does, creating that jet stream out to right field. Now back 2-1. He doesn't need a jet stream. He doesn't need the wind. And he has shown that already here tonight.
Nights like tonight are not a rarity here in Texas. That's the most amazing thing about their pitching staff and what they have done so far this year. And to be at the quarter pole and to do what they do as a staff right now, the ERA coming out of the bullpen, the ERA is the starters, the strikeouts they're getting.
How about that web gem down the line there? It was pretty sweet. The ball girl, that was nice.
You watch him throw before the game.
Between innings and stuff.
No, but before the game they loosen up in the outfield. They can fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're softball players. They have to be. Only softball girls can make this play.
Whoa.
Played to Karen perfectly.
Ground ball up the middle, a base hit for Pena. Well, about at the quarter pole of the season, let's take a look at how things have gone so far for the Tigers. Now a game and a half back of the first place Indians in the American League Central. They are leading the American League in offense this year at better than 5 runs per game. The starting rotation is also a strength for the Tigers. And then, of course, the biggest strength of all, the best hitter in the game, Miguel Cabrera, now up to 45 RBIs after the 3-run homer here tonight. So there's so much to like about this team, but last year they didn't overtake the White Sox to win the division really until the last week of the season. This year they're in second right now. You look at the team and you say, well, they're going to blow the competition away, but they have not done that. What do the Tigers need, or what do they need to do better in order to fulfill their potential?
Well, early on, the bullpen was a mess, but the bullpen has gotten squared away since Jose Valverde is back. There he is with his head down right there. I think it was the end of April 24th or so that he came on, and that has squared things away down there. But they still have some inconsistencies. As consistent as Cabrera is, Jim Leyland is still looking for the consistent Tiger lineup to fire on all cylinders. And he says they're going to be as consistent as the guy who stands on the bump in the middle, the starting pitcher.
Taylor-made 6-4-3 double play.
It's a great pitch by Derek Holland. He gets up ball. Look like a run away from Garcia. And that just, you know, for guys who haven't worked a lot together as far as shortstop, second base combos, Garcia made that play look pretty easy. I love watching middle infielders when they do how quick their hands are, and you know how accurate their throwing is, and that's poetic, Dan. It's poetry in motion.
Elvis Andrus starting his 19th double play of the season. That leads the majors. Jim Leyland was talking about the Rangers and how every time the Tigers play the Rangers, there's a Leury Garcia or a Leonis Martin. There's a new, young, athletic, talented guy with good speed, as this Texas farm system just continues to produce.
Yeah, and you can't tell me at the trade deadline if there's not a piece that they need, a veteran piece that they think this will get us over the hump. They have the wherewithal in their organization, probably not even to give up their top prospects, because their second, their younger prospects who aren't ready for the big leagues might be as good as the guys who are.
Yeah, good situation for John Daniels, the president general manager, whom you just saw sitting in the stands. Fly ball carrying deep into the corner, but caught by Cruz, and Infante retired, and the inning is over. Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. And Budweiser, great times are waiting. Grab some buds. To the bottom of the fourth in Arlington. The Tigers, on the strength of that home run from Miguel Cabrera, have a 3-1 lead on the Rangers. Time now for some FaceTime, brought to you by Edward Jones, Buster Olney, with Tiger manager Jim Leland.
Jim, what's it like managing Miguel Cabrera when he's doing things like that?
Well, I mean, you're not surprised. I've watched him long enough now. You know, like I said, I think he's got the best off-field power of anybody I've ever seen. So, you know, pretty good proof of that again tonight.
What are you seeing in Doug Fister tonight?
Well, he's okay, but he's doing okay. And I think that one thing about the Rangers, they really grind their bats out. We do too. But the Rangers are one of the better teams in baseball that grind their bats out. They don't give anything away.
Jim, thank you.
Adrian Beltre leads off the inning for Texas. For Jim Leland to say Miguel Cabrera's got the best opposite field power of anybody I've ever seen. Jim Leland hates comparing players. Hates it. Just likes to view each player as an individual. For him to say what he just said about Cabrera is about as big of a statement as Leland will make about a player.
Remember, he managed Barry Bonds.
Yep.
And Jim had him at the beginning of his career, Barry Bonds. And Barry was hitting more opposite field home runs later in his career.
Beltre, Cruz, and Moreland due up for the Rangers. Popped up. Fielder coming over. Can't make the catch.
Well, that's a tough one with that wind blowing so hard. And, you know, your ideal thing is to try to get to the rail as quick as you can so you can, figure out, do I have to jump? Can I just reach and get it? So close of a play right there. But I mean, that's, those rails aren't that high. And if you're running in there full bore, you're going head first into that dugout. And I'm sure the Rangers don't want to see Prince come in there.
Fly ball to right field, right at Hunter. One down. Well, if you missed it earlier, this is the home run hit by Miguel Cabrera tonight. The first pitch of the at-bat. Watch where it lands. Up on the stairs. Measured at 441. Prucky's saying you got to give it 460. Not just a power hitter. A great hitter with a lot of power. Look at the batting average and look at the great company that Miguel Cabrera shares in terms of seasons with a 320 average, 30 homers, and 100 RBIs. Look at that group.
Wow.
So we've had him on a Pujols, Williams, DiMaggio graphic. We've had him on a Hank Aaron graphic tonight. He's in some pretty good company.
It'll get better. Just think next year we do one of their games. Pretty soon he'll be a graphic all his own.
And in some ways, just kind of a big kid in the clubhouse, private, but loves to have fun with his teammates, just loves to play baseball. 2 down. One of the nicer parks in the baseball, Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. Big crowds all the time in recent years for a team that has won the American League pennant twice recently, 2010 and 2011.
This fan base has really come to love these Rangers. They come out in the heat and the wind, and they love their baseball. Dallas and Arlington kind of known as football town, but I'll tell you what, they come out in the summer.
Statue of Nolan Ryan on display here in the ballpark. And there's the man himself. 5,714 strikeouts. Talk about a record that's never going to be broken.
On that list.
Yeah.
More than once. Might be double figures.
I think we got some people cranking away on research right now trying to get those numbers.
Go to baseballreference.com. Go to matchups. Ryan, Kruk.
I'd say the numbers don't favor me.
You wouldn't be the only one in that group.
No. Now you probably put me on a list with a bunch of Hall of Famers too. Throw that graphic up there.
And we're talking about a 300 career hitter sitting beside me here in John Kruk. Down the left field line, foul. What do you remember about facing Ryan?
You know, you knew, of course, the velocity, but you know, the thing you hated was you didn't know when he was going to drop that curveball on you. But I was at the mindset, and you know, Tony Gwynn, of course, was a teammate when we faced the Astros and Nolan, and he said, you know, if he's going to throw 3 breaking balls for strikes, he's going to strike you out. So you better hit the fastball because you're not going to hit anything else.
Fly ball to left field to end the inning. We've got your stats against him. We'll give them when we come back. How's that?
Oh, boy.
First pitch swinging, and he drills it deep right center field and way out of here. We go to the 5th inning here in Arlington. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Tigers, on the strength of a home run by Miguel Cabrera, lead the Rangers 3-1. Cabrera on deck right now as Torrey Hunter leads off the inning against Derek Holland. Hunter tonight struck out and had an infield hit. He scored on that home run by Cabrera. A 3-run shot in the 3rd inning. Big swing and a foul back by Hunter. 2-1.
Is there a better place in the world to hit in baseball than the 2 hitter for the Tigers?
They got to give you something to hit, right?
Wow, they're not going to walk you.
Yep. Hunter might have chased one a little above the zone there. 2-2.
Talked to him before the game, so excited at the fact that his son's going to have weekends off when he first starts up at Notre Dame and be able to come up. He's already been up once to see him.
Seeing themselves up on the big monitor in front of them, trying to find the camera at the same time as Hunter swings and misses one down. So Cabrera comes to the plate in time to take a look at Hot Zone, brought to you by T-Mobile.
If it's red, he hits over 350 in that area, and if it's blue, he hits under 250. And on his last at bat, I hope that was in a hot zone, because he hit it a long way.
They should just paint the square red.
So bottom of the zone is where he's done the best. A better than 350 average against lefties over the last couple of years. There's not a single blue square in there, so there's nowhere really where he's got a real weakness.
Not in the strike zone.
And the home run that he hit was in one of those red squares, bottom middle of the strike zone. The pitch you got from Holland in the third.
And one of the great things about him is he makes you throw the ball in the strike zone, and then if he covers the plate as well as he can, that's why he's hitting over 370.
There's just not a pitch that's close to the strike zone that he can't cover. That you'll jam him every once in a while. He'll hit one off the end of the bat, but that's normal. The problem is it's few and far between when he does do those things.
Well, this at bat resembles a lot the first at bat, where he fell behind 0-2 to Holland and then battled all the way back to 3-2 and fought off a 3-2 pitch and then ended up getting a base hit.
Won't chase. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
He's taken that ball right out of Derek Holland's hand. It's very little information before he has decided what he's going to do, and that's another great thing about these amazing elite hitters is how quickly they can pick up the ball and decipher the information and quickly make a decision.
And he's worked the count full.
That's Derek Holland's best fastball today, 95 miles an hour, up and in. 3-2. Here's the thing that makes it so amazing how he hits 350. 3-2, he's liable to get anything. Most normal people, fastball, something two-seamer away, take your chances. But this guy's liable to get a changeup, a breaking ball, anything.
Holland looked like he was trying to shake to a fastball in. Let's see if we end up there.
He can hit that pitch out to right, too. Thing is, too, you have to remember, he doesn't run well. He's not getting infield hits.
Center field, deep, and gone. Another one for Cabrera. And Derek Holland, Oral, had a look on his face like, what do I have to do to get this guy out? Second home run of the night for Cabrera, 10th of the season, 46th RBI. And he's driven in all 4 runs for the Tigers tonight.
Well, he wasn't even in the top 10 in home runs in the American League coming into the game. The leaders had 12. He's now up to 10, and that's the only category where he's not leading the American League. He is moving up the ladder in the one category he needs.
27th multi-home run game of Cabrera's career. 0-2 on Fielder. Cabrera's average with a 3-for-3 night, guys, is now 384.
It's like wiffle ball in the backyard.
It's not supposed to be this easy.
No. But he might be with the type that looks at the stat sheet, which he probably never does because he probably could care less. But he probably looks at it and say, wow, I'm 4 homers behind the leader. Let me get a couple tonight. Wow.
Ripped by Fielder down into the right field corner. His first hit of the night, and it'll be a double.
Well, Derek Holland threw him everything but the kitchen sink before Cabrera hits the home run. Remember, he gets out in front of him 0-2, and he's pounding him with fastballs in early in the count that Cabrera just kind of has to fight off. But this one right here, he leaves it 3-2 right in the inner half, just maybe above that 350 hot zone that we showed at the beginning. And this is a bullet to center field.
Wow. You know, initially, just for a split second, it looked like Gentry said to himself, I might catch this ball. And then it just kept going.
And then the farther he ran, the farther it got away from him. It caught up to him quick, though, didn't it? He took a step back. He said, I got this one. And then it just...
Gaining on him and then blew right by him. Victor Martinez takes a strike. His activity begins now in the Rangers' pen. Veteran right-hander Derek Lowe begins to throw. Ron Washington's gotten a lot of good starts out of Derek Holland. And maybe if it weren't for Miguel Cabrera, this would be another one. Weekly hit to third. 2 down. Major League Baseball action continues here on ESPN tomorrow night at 7. An American League East Division battle between the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles, who are struggling now, have lost 5 in a row. You'll see the same 2 teams on Wednesday night as they finish up a 3-game series. And then a week from tonight, we will be in the Big Apple as the Mets host the Atlanta Braves. All 3 games on ESPN and also live on Watch ESPN. The Braves with some tough injury news this past week out of the bullpen. Johnny Venter's elbow surgery done for the year. Eric O'Flaherty, a torn ulnar collateral ligament, likely, reportedly, headed for surgery, and that would mean that he is done for the year as well. Atlanta keeps rolling on, beat the Dodgers again today, but of course that bullpen's been such a big strength for the Braves the last couple of years, and now 2 of their key guys are out indefinitely.
Well, they're hoping to get Brandon Beachy back soon. That could move Tehran into the bullpen. Probably is a long guy to ease some of that burden.
You know, the bridge to Kimbrel is damaged, and they've got to fix it and find a way to get there.
Well, they'll figure something out. They, you know, who knew of Johnny Venter's or O'Flaherty, you know, until they became who they are.
Yeah. Avilan, Guerin now moving up the ladder in that bullpen.
Avilan could be the next one, the next lefty that can get lefties out and righties out.
Atlanta came back, got 4 runs late in the 8th inning on 3 Dodger errors to win the game 5-2. Tough times for the Dodgers.
Tough times out in L.A. period. With the Angels, all the money they spent, and the Dodgers too.
Lakers. Didn't the Lakers make big trades? And they also got Dwight Howard.
Howard,
Steve
fell apart.
Yep.
Wow.
2-2 the count on Tuiasa Sopo, who has walked in both of his plate appearances tonight. Miguel Cabrera, 2 homers, all 4 RBIs for the Tigers.
This could be a very interesting game. You know, it's 4-1. Texas is down, but Detroit's bullpen has been used a lot in this series. And if Fister can't go deep into the game, and this ballpark plays very offensively, this is going to be 4-1 is not even close to out of reach in this ballpark with these offenses.
I can tell you this: the wind didn't have a chance to get to Cabrera's ball. Didn't help it or hurt it.
The first one a towering shot to right center up into the stairway at least 450 feet away, and the last one a frozen rope to straightaway center, hit the top of the wall and bounced out of here. Holland over 100 pitches here in the 5th inning. Likely his last inning if he could even get through this one, as Derek Lowe is up in the pen.
It's one of those outings where he'll go back and maybe second guess a few pitches, but he's really not that far off his game, other than Miguel Cabrera, the best hitter in the game and one of the best hitters of all time, possibly beating him up a little bit.
Oh, and the play by Andres that allowed Infante to get to third base. If he makes a better throw, it's an out. You know, and who knows what happens with the runner on first and Cabrera hitting.
Got to give the Tigers credit for grinding out some at bats. A lot of 2-strike foul balls extending Holland here.
They haven't scored a lot of runs in their losses here in this series at all. They haven't been real consistent. I think maybe 8 runs in 3 games.
And Tuiasa Sopo walks for the 3rd time tonight. And here comes the skipper. Ron Washington has seen enough from the left-hander tonight. There's the signal. Derek Lowe will come in to face Johnny Peralta. And for Derek Holland, he had one problem, and he had it twice. Miguel Cabrera homering off him in the 3rd and going deep again in the 5th. 4-1 Detroit. Here in the 5th inning. On a pitch for Texas is right-hander Derek Lowe. Hasn't pitched in a week. Gave up 4 runs in the 8th inning in his last appearance rather. That was a week ago, and you can see the numbers are not good. He's been knocked around lately and generally getting this kind of work. Long relief out of the pen for the Rangers. Back in the day, you talk about one of the great sinker ball pitchers in baseball, and he did it as a starter. He did it as a closer. He's pitched in just about every role. The batter, Johnny Peralta.
And in 2004, didn't he win 3 Game 7s?
You are correct. Or 3 clinching games.
3 clinching
games, right.
The Game 7 against the Yankees when they came back from 3 games to nothing.
There it is right
there. And the 4th game against St. Louis.
Yep. clinch the World Series, the first in 86 years for the Red Sox.
With our partner, the Big Shill.
Two men on for the Tigers, two down. A 4-1 lead on the strength of 2 home runs by Miguel Cabrera. And Peralta fights it off. A 4-game series. Texas has taken 2 of the first 3. Beat Justin Verlander on Thursday, knocked him out in the 3rd. Shallow right center. And calling for it and making the catch is Gentry to end the inning. 4-1 Tigers going to the bottom of the 5th. 2 home runs for Cabrera. Taco Bell. Bottom of the 5th inning here in Arlington. The Tigers with a 4-1 lead over the Rangers. Nolan Ryan. And looking on, we talked about we wanted to get to your numbers, Crucky, against him before Miguel Cabrera so rudely interrupted with his 2nd home run of the game.
Can't believe he would do that.
You faced Ryan 18 times, 3 for 18 with a home run.
Yeah.
And only 5 strikeouts.
Only 5.
That could be a lot worse.
3 for 18 stinks. I don't know if you can run numbers that quick, but
167. But you remember the home run?
Yeah, of course.
Tell us about it.
It was a high fastball, hit a line drive to left field in San Diego, and went out.
Did you get knocked down the next at bat?
No, I ran around the base so quick. I told all the guys, "Don't shake my hand. I don't want him to know who did it."
Was he as intimidating as the stories suggested?
Yeah, he was. You know, the thing was that, like, after he threw his last warm-up pitch, especially in San Diego because we played on grass, he would go and, you know, step on the grass, make sure he, you know, wasn't slippery. And then he'd stare at the leadoff hitter like, "You bunt, you're going down." So yeah, it wasn't fun.
It was memorable, huh?
Yeah.
Soto with a double.
I remember one game in Houston. I hit 3 of the hardest line drives I ever hit. I lined out to short, second, and center. And after the last one, I lined out to second. I was standing at first base waiting for my glove, and the dugouts are so close, you know, in Houston, the Astrodome. And he walked past and he said, "I got your you-know-what popping up, don't I?" I'm like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Ryan." Whatever you say.
Well, every time, if you walk into the Texas clubhouse on your way to Ron Washington's office, they have a number of photos up on the wall, and one of them is of Ryan pounding on Robin Ventura when Ventura charged the mound. And Ryan was in his, mid-40s by then, right? Robin was in his mid-20s at the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robin.
Well, they haven't made fun of Robin here. No. When he comes as a manager. Nolan lastly said, you guys can't put that up on the video. I'll tell you, one of the scariest times of my big league career is when I made a stupid mistake and tried to bunt for a hit off of him, and the next pitch was right at my coconut. And it was unbelievable. I was like, I can't believe I got out of the way of that.
Yeah, he was under the theory that, I'm going to throw it up and in, and it's up to you to get out of the way, which the reaction time was very, very slow.
There's a good curveball from Fister. Fister's got that same mentality, but Fister's throwing 91, 92 mile an hour two-seamers. Ryan's throwing 97 mile an hour four-seamers up there.
That had a little, seemed like sometimes they had a little upshoot to them, didn't they? Yeah, they got there a little quicker than most. Well, they got there quicker than anyone I've ever faced.
7 no-hitters. 7.
5,000 strikeouts.
You faced Dwight Gooden too, right?
Dwight Gooden, yeah. Dwight.
Rob Dibble?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of all the hard throwers. Those three were right up
those
there.
Three were there.
But nobody harder than Nolan as far as pick it up?
No. And they, he was usually around 98 to 100, but I don't know. You see like Aroldis Chapman, and I've never seen him pitch live. Thank goodness I've never stood in the box off of him, but I just can't imagine getting there any quicker than what Nolan threw it.
Steven Strasburg when he's
I'll tell you, the Phillies caught up to Aroldis Chapman today. Eric Kratz and Freddie Galvis homered off him in the 9th inning, and the Phillies won 3-2.
Yeah, that's when they were talking in spring training about making him a starter. He's such a weapon at the end of the game, but you can see if you see him enough, everyone's going to hit 98. You have to have something to go with it. And, even though he has a slider, but everything's hard, and I don't know if it's a starter. He's not going to be 98.
Base hit into center field for Gentry. Soto's going to be held at third. And the Rangers have men on the corners with nobody out.
Here comes Rangers baseball. Peck away, and someone pops one right now, and we're all even.
Well, you talked about in the open how they don't need to hit the long ball to create offense anymore. They're based on a whole lineup and guys who work the count, and find ways to get on.
Hey, what? You see that throw by Garcia? Wow. 6'4", 240. You'd think he'd have something to throw with.
It's Avisail Garcia just called up from the minors when Austin Jackson went on the DL. Here's Leury Garcia, no relation for the Rangers, filling in for the injured Ian Kinsler. He looks in a stride. Garcia grounding out his first time up.
I'm not sure there's not a player on the team that Miguel Cabrera hasn't talked to with the Rangers.
I was just looking at that. Let's see Soto down at third.
Yeah, even after his first at bat, after Prince struck out to end the inning, he was chatting with the guys in the Rangers dugout.
Left field. Catch by Tuiasa Sopo, and Soto will be held. And look at that throw. Good arm strength from Tuiasa Sopo.
Miguel Cabrera's all fun and games, but when the game comes to be played, he knows Soto's probably not going on this play. And look at him, the throw goes over his head, and he looks back out at Tuiasa Sopo because he could take the double play out of order if he overthrows, and he did overthrow, and the first runner on first didn't go. But you see him right there, hit me in the chest. That's where you're supposed to throw it. Hit me. And I guarantee you that message will be relayed to him in the dugout, too.
Runner goes. They throw through, and a stolen base for Gentry.
That's a rarity off of Doug Fister on the mound. Great athlete that usually holds runners really, really well. They kind of fell asleep right there, and Gentry swipes that bag, gets out of the double play situation. It's only the second bag that Fister's given up this year.
So now see how the Tigers play it. They're backed up the middle. Fielder playing behind the bag at first. Cabrera even with the bag at third. Second and third, one out for Andrus. Ground ball to short. This will get a run home. 4-2. Gentry to third on the play. Now he's talking to Gentry.
Well, he's got a lot of good conversation starters because every guy who comes around him can always talk to him about how he's hitting. Yeah. Well, you know, oh my God, you hit that one a bomb.
It's like playing against a great golfer. Nice shot, nice shot. Good swing, Miggy. Yeah. Good swing, Miggy. Wow, Miggy, you hit that one well.
Here's Murphy. Murphy with an infield hit and a ground out tonight. Changeup misses away. It's a ball and a strike.
There's not many conversations that starts out with, yeah, I'm really struggling right now.
Looks like Fister doesn't want to throw Murphy a fastball. He is well aware that Murphy has had great success against him. He's 9 for 20, a .450 average with 4 home runs in his career. And so far, Murphy has seen curveball, changeup, changeup.
Another changeup, left up.
Berkman on deck should the inning continue. Even 3-1, a curveball, and it's a strike.
A lot of respect. Changing the formula.
Detroit bullpen is busy. Left-hander Darren Downs, right-hander Jose Ortega. Ball 4 to Murphy. NBA coverage continues Tuesday night here on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern. Find out which team will get the #1 pick in the NBA lottery. And then at 9, it's Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. The Spurs led by Tony Parker with a convincing victory in a Game 1 earlier today. Coverage tips off at 7:30 with Kia NBA Countdown. It's the NBA on ESPN Tuesday and also live on Watch ESPN. Spurs just keep getting it done year after year. Jeff Jones to the mound, and a little smile between Jones and Fister. Not as sharp oral as we've seen him on many other occasions.
Yeah, a couple different reasons. The lineup you're facing and the ballpark conditions, and it's made both the starting pitchers work really hard. Hollins had to leave the game, and Fister's battling to stay in this one, especially through the 5th inning with a lead right here.
Got to get through 5 to qualify for the win. Holland lasted 4 2/3. For the Rangers, gave up 4 runs on 8 hits as Berkman fouls it off.
Jim Leland mentioned to me today that he thought that maybe their starting pitchers in this series were pitching to the ballpark instead of to what the hitter dictates and to their strengths. And he thought Anibal Sanchez got in trouble with it yesterday because he seemed to pitch more to how the wind was blowing as opposed to his strengths. And Fister's up at 98 pitches already in 4 2/3.
You can lose your mindset when you come into a game against a good lineup and extreme ballpark conditions.
Well, he better not make a mistake here to the Puma. 0 for 2, a strikeout and a ground out to second. You know he's chomping at the bit to drive in this run.
Well, Fister knew coming into this game that the starters had not done well, and the bullpen needed a little bit of rest. You had a couple guys who had 2 of their worst outings of their career in Sanchez and Verlander. And now Pfister taking the mound and hit his 100th pitch here in the 5th. He'd love to get him to the 6th and only hand 3 innings off the bullpen instead of 4 1/3.
Up the middle, base hit. Gentry scores, and it's 4-3.
Lance Berkman comes here as a veteran. I'll tell you what, he's working him over, but it's a veteran at bat where he gets to a place where he can hammer a ball up the middle. He knows he probably might hit a ground ball in a 2-seamer, but he hits it hard and he finds a hole.
So a 1-run game, and Beltre is the batter, 1 for 2, doubled and scored back in the 2nd. Two men on, 2 outs. 2 runs in this inning. Pfister shaking off Pena a couple of times. The Rangers are a team you just can't count them out. Although they are only 7th in the American League in runs scored this year, they're normally better than that. But they lead all of baseball with 13 and come from behind victories so far this season.
Pfister's been trying to work Beltre in this whole night. I mean, if I'm Beltre, I might 2-1. I might cheat on one inside here and try to get one.
He was just trying to punch it the other way, right?
No. No. He was trying to defy the wind and try to yank this one in the left field seats. I mean, you said the difference between he and Miguel Cabrera. That's about as violent a swing as you're going to see on a 2-1 breaking ball. I mean, yeah, he wasn't trying to shoot that one the other way down. Thing is, he falls down on his knee, but he still hits it.
Yep. He's homered on swings like that where he winds up on one knee. Full count. A little different looking release point there from Pfister.
He's pitching for an opportunity to get a W right here. He knows he's on the ropes, not only with men on base and 2 out, but in his manager's mind, he's on the ropes also.
Runners will be on the move. Murphy from second to Berkman from first. Down the left field line. Who's going to get there? Nobody, and it's a fair ball. And 2 runs will score. And an argument down the line about whether the ball was fair or foul. Mike Malinsky, the third base umpire, making the call that Miguel Cabrera is not smiling and chatting amicably anymore. Jim Leland is out for an explanation.
Fielder touches the ball over the line or in fair territory, it's fair. If he touches it in foul territory, it's foul.
Peralta, it hits his glove. Clearly a fair ball.
Yeah, now it's a fair ball.
And give Lance Berkman credit. He was off at the crack of the bat, scoring from first base on that ball down the line, hustling the whole way around to get the Rangers this lead.
So the correct call by Mike Malinsky. It's a 2-run double for Beltre, and the Texas Rangers have the lead.
Beltre, 2 of the bloopingest doubles tonight. One down the right field line on a jam shot, and that on a curveball that he was out in front of down the left field line.
Good at bats. Here's where Pfister has to be careful. He's lost the lead. He's thrown 108 pitches right now. If he tries to throw something just to hope to get an out with Nelson Cruz, this could be a 3-run game.
A long inning for Pfister, and the lead has evaporated. And his command has evaporated.
Just as much as you feast on a hitter's aggressiveness with a breaking ball, Pfister feasts on their aggressiveness with his two-seam fastball in. He makes it look like a strike and end up a ball. They're just not biting.
3-0 green light, and Cruz was getting after it, Crucky.
Yeah, that's like a free swing. You look for something, in a location where you want, whether it be middle in, middle away, and if you get it, you just turn it loose like Beltre did when he fell down. Nelson Cruz had a pretty good swing at this one too. Yeah, that's not a rollover.
High strike, full count.
Wow.
Long throw coming. Pulls fielder off the bag. An infield hit for Cruz. Beltre to third. And that's going to be all for Doug Pfister. Cannot get out of the fifth. Loses the lead. Darren Downs in for the Tigers. Down the left field line to score a couple of runs, give the Rangers the lead as two of the game's great talents stock it over at third base. Left-hander Darren Downs into the game and out for the Tigers for the 16th time this season. Went 2 2/3 in relief Thursday after Justin Verlander got knocked out of the game. And you can see some very good numbers for Downs as he comes on to face the left-hand hitting Mitch Moreland.
Made his first big league roster out of spring training this year. Broke in last year with the Tigers. A nice breaking ball that lefties have trouble with.
A 4-run inning, and it's not over yet for the Rangers. Despite 2 home runs from Miguel Cabrera, Texas has the lead. Moreland has a sac fly and a fly ball to left. Soto on deck. He started this inning with a double into the left field corner. Gentry had a base hit. Andrews drove in a run on a ground out. Berkman singled home a run, and then Beltre doubled home 2 more.
Real interesting for me how the Tigers are continuing to play Moreland to pull, as he's found left field now and gotten hot. He uses that part of the field a lot more, and especially in a left-on-left situation, he'll be trying to shoot the ball over there where the shortstop normally plays.
The infield's playing him to pull, the outfield's playing him the other way.
The other way. And caught shy of the track by Tuiasa Sopo to finally put an end to the inning. Texas has the lead, and you'll get a Baseball Tonight update right out of this break. All right, guys, thank you. Some other big stories from around the majors. We talked about the injuries in the Atlanta bullpen and how that changes things for the Braves. David Price placed on the DL this week with a triceps issue, but picking up the slack, guys. Matt Moore picks up a win today as Tampa Bay completes the sweep of Baltimore, and he becomes the first 8-game winner in the majors this season.
Well, you knew the talent was there. He can't, his rookie year, he was phenomenal, and then struggles last year with command, and to me, he was tipping his pitches, and it looks like he's taking care of those issues pretty strongly.
We go to the 6th inning, 5-4 Texas. Ryan Pena turns around to bat left-handed against the right-handed Derek Lowe. Pena, Avisail Garcia, and then back to the top of the order for Omar Infante. There's a base into right center. And the leadoff man is aboard for the Tigers as we check in again with Buster.
Guys, in talking with executives of the other teams, they really expect that the Price injury could complicate the Rays' plans. Now, Tampa Bay came into this year thinking that they were going to compete for the American League East, and losing him hurts in that regard. But also, big picture, the expectation had been that Tampa Bay would seriously consider trading Price during the offseason. Well, officials with other teams are going to want to see Price back to his dominant 95-mile-per-hour Cy Young type stuff before they're willing to give up a high-end type of group of prospects. So that's a situation worth watching in Tampa Bay and in other cities.
All right, Buster, thank you. Andy Dirks comes up to pinch hit for Garcia. Dirks, a left-handed batter, hit over 300 last year. Got a strike taken, a ball and a strike on Dirks. Right-hander Jason Frazier, left-hander Michael Kirkman.
Well, Jim Leyland taking a shot with his left-handed bat here because the bullpen wasn't ready, and there's not a lot of guys in this Tiger lineup you're going to pinch hit for. And so if he's going to use a tool, it's a good time to use it.
You get the feeling we may still see a couple more crooked numbers put up there tonight before this one's done?
Yes.
Worrell?
Oh, my thoughts exactly. Remember, I was a pitching coach here for 3.5 years.
Worrell still wakes up in a cold sweat every now and again. Remember in those days. It's a tough place.
But they are doing an amazing job. Mike Maddox, the pitching coach now, is just absolutely flat out taught these guys how to deal with this ballpark mentally and physically. Nolan Ryan with a lot of that have to do with that.
Runner goes. Pitch fouled off.
You run him once, you better run him again. A lot of confidence in Andy Dirks to put the ball in play against Derek Lowe's sinker baller. Stay out of the double play. Dirks gets it in the hole. You get a first and third with Pena. I mean, he looks like a base stealer.
That's your backup catcher, Brian Pena. Probably the first time he's ever drawn 2 consecutive throws at first base in his big league career.
He's laughing about it.
Going again. Fly ball to left center. And Gentry tracks it down. Now back to the top of the order for Omar Infante. Miguel Cabrera is a couple of spots away now.
Walk him.
Cabrera, no matter what.
Yep. Base is loaded.
He's 3 for 3 with a single and 2 homers. Here comes Infante, who's 1 for 3, doubled and scored in the third. Trying to bunt his way aboard. And he will. A bunt single for Infante.
Knows his tools, knows the game, and makes a very high quality bunt as far as distance. Doesn't get it quite down the line like he wants to, but he gets Adrian Beltre back at a position where he wanted him to attempt it. Adrian couldn't pull off the miracle play.
And here's Ron Washington. Meanwhile, the trainer for the Tigers is going to check on the status of Infante at first base as Ron Washington takes the ball from Derek Lowe. And Jason Frazier will come into the game for the Rangers. So it'll be Frazier on deck when we come back. In the on-deck circle as we bring you back to Arlington, where the Rangers have a 5-4 lead on the Tigers, but the Tigers have runners at first and second with one out. New pitcher for Texas, right-hander Jason Frazier, his 17th appearance of the season. Signed to a deal by the Rangers in the offseason, has spent the vast majority of his career prior to this year as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays. He will face Torrey Hunter, who's hit 2 home runs off him in his career, with Cabrera on deck. Cabrera's already homered twice in this game. Elvis Andrews in for a quick visit with Frazier.
You want to know what kind of signs he's using. Andrews thought he had the signs, didn't have the right pitch, where to play.
Little high ball, too.
If Torrey's going to get a pitch to hit, this is it. 2-0, 1 out. Cabrera behind you. Wow. Throw him a hook. This game isn't fair sometimes. I mean, the probability of getting a fastball right there is probably 95%. Torrey thought, like me, it was 100%.
Got a fastball there, but he couldn't catch up. Pena at second, Infante at first. Swing and a miss, 2 down.
Oh, this is how smart a hitter Miguel Cabrera is. You can't tell me right here he's looking 94 bind. He's looking off speed pitch, change up first pitch. His next at bat, he gets a change up first pitch. He hits it out of the ballpark. And the next at bat, he goes, okay, now he has to think I'm sitting off speed early in the count. He throws him a fastball. He hits that one out. It just tells you how smart he is. He stuck with the game plan. He thought he was going to get a change up his first at bat. He didn't, but he still thought, along with Holland, he's going to throw me a break off-speed pitch my second at bat, and he did, and he hits it out.
All right, let's talk about a phrase that Orel uses a lot. There is a base open. It doesn't happen to be first base, but there's a base open. Are they considering walking Cabrera?
They're definitely going over the scouting report, and it was interesting to watch Soto keep shrugging his shoulders as he was talking to him. So he doesn't know. I don't think there's a base open here. I think you're going to throw him high-quality pitches, and if you happen to walk them, you walk them. But the base that is open, usually even when it's not first base, when you use third base, is when the game is completely on the line. And I think here, we're too early in the game to think there's a base open.
Jim Leyland upset, I think, at how long that conversation lasted on the mound. Wanted Phil Cuzzy to keep the game moving.
Got to admit, though, this is not like a little decision.
Looks like they're going to pitch to him.
Maybe not.
Only if he wants to get himself out on a ball, maybe. The unintentional, intentional walk.
Now, Orel, if you're pitching around a guy, is it easier to pitch around him with a fastball or a breaking ball?
The fastball, because the breaking ball, when you go to throw a better one or maybe get one in the dirt, sometimes it slips out the top half, you hang it.
You don't want to do that to him.
On deck, Prince Fielder. And a left-hander, Michael Kirkman, up in the pen for the Rangers.
Frazier's telling Soto, I thought that pitch was six inches off the plate. How did he get the good part of the bat on the ball? It's pretty good. Tied for best in the AL.
Somebody else is having a pretty good year too, huh?
Somebody else is not bad either.
Inside, ball 2.
Now the decision is, do I double up in, or do I go back with that breaking ball that he fouled off?
They're walking it.
Oh my gosh.
You don't see it that often, but it's really hard to argue with what the Rangers are doing, given the way Cabrera swung the bat tonight. Intentional walk. Pitching change. The left-hander Kirkman on his way in to face Prince Fielder with the bases loaded when we come back. Walked with runners at first and second to load the bases, take the bat out of his hands, and leave it up to Michael Kirkman, the new pitcher for the Texas Rangers. The left-hander comes in to face Prince Fielder. 19th appearance of the season for Kirkman, who, as you can see, he's given up a lot of hits, a lot of walks, a lot of runs so far this year. Almost 2 base runners per inning allowed by Kirkman. Fielder is 1 for 3 tonight. He's 1 for 3 in his career against Kirkman, and he's hitting over 300 this year against left-handed pitching.
And that's why I think when you heard Ron Washington say it's pick your poison, it's not like you can bring in a lefty and Prince is an automatic out.
But you gained 160 some points because Cabrera, well, you gained 60 points. But the way he's hitting with runner in scoring position, you gain an awful lot.
Bases loaded, 2 down. 1-run lead, Texas. And a strike. And the shift on. Anderson and Garcia talking about where they're positioned and who's got what responsibility. He checked it. Ripped to center field. Extra bases for Fielder. 3 runs will score.
Different mentality, different at bat, John, when the guy in front of you gets walked?
Yeah, you take it as a form of, but you know, let's put it this way. Prince is smart enough to understand that the guy's already got 2 homers and a single. And, you know, the left-to-lefty matchup, you know, he's hitting 300 against him, but, you know, that's the right thing for Ron Washington to do. But I don't know. You know, you walk a guy with Prince's ilk. He's an RBI guy, and but you pick your poison, and then, you know, they stung Ron Washington and the Texas Rangers on this one.
So the Tigers go back on top.
I mean, if he pitches to Cabrera, Cabrera hits a home run off Frazier, and
right.
you think, well, what's he thinking?
Here's Victor Martinez. And a roller to second to end the inning. But Fielder makes the Rangers pay, and the Tigers are back on top. Presented by Taco Bell. Back and forth affair, but the Tigers now leading 7-5 as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. And a couple of changes for the Tigers. Andy Dirks will stay in the game in center field after pinch hitting for Avisail Garcia. And the new pitcher for the Tigers is hard-throwing right-hander Jose Ortega. This guy can bring it at 95, 96 miles an hour. This is up and in, ball 1 to Giovanni Soto. Ortega's numbers at AAA, pretty impressive. 14 innings, not a single earned run allowed, and in 6 big league appearances this year, guys. 7 innings, 3 hits, 7 strikeouts, no runs allowed.
They've got some big arms, and they're just looking for guys who can get it over the plate and get people out and have confidence and consistency coming out of that bullpen.
Breaking ball away, ball 2. Pinch hitter in the on-deck circle now for Texas as Leonis Martin will bat for Craig Gentry. Base hit left field. And Soto is 3 for 3 after homering Thursday and Friday in the first 2 games of this series.
Yeah, that's the thing. You lose your number 1 catcher, a guy who hit 27 home runs last year. You think you're going to take a downslide offensively, and Soto was struggling, but the last few games he's starting to pick it up. And yeah, you remember his rookie year, how great a year he had with the Cubs, and then he just basically fell off the map offensively. Hopefully Texas will revitalize him.
So here's Martin. Cabrera in on the grass at third. Strike at the belt. He's done it often, and he's done it well this year. Coming off the bench.
Tough job.
Yep.
Them guys that make a career out of it, the Manny Motas, the Lenny Harrises of the world. You think about it, this is who you're facing. You're going to get 1 AB against a guy, either the closer or a guy that's coming in throwing 98. Tim Flannery told me if you hit 220, 230, 240 as a pitch hitter, you've had a heck of a season.
Fielder, they'll get the lead runner, and that's all. Fielder's choice for Martin. At least for the Rangers, from their perspective, they get a faster runner at first base now with a 1 out. As Martinez at first, and Leury Garcia will be the batter. The second baseman is 0 for 2.
Well, that's a good play by Prince Fielder. He didn't rush the throw. He knew there was no way you're going to double up Martin on that ball. So he just made a nice, easy throw to second base, a nice, accurate throw, just because he knew 1 out was all they were going to get.
It's the kind of situation where the Rangers, as part of their order, with Wheels at the plate and Wheels at first, you might see a hit and run. You could see an attempted steal. You get a 1-0 count right here. See, Ron Washington wants to put him in action.
Yeah, your next 2 hitters in the line, well, Garcia and Andrus aren't big home run guys, so you steal Martin right here. It's going to take a single to score him, and you wait there at first base. It's going to take a double or a homer to score him. I think you run him.
Martin 4 for 6 stealing bases so far this year. Cabrera in on the edge of the grass at third. Middle infielders at double play depth. Runner at first, 1 out. And another throw to first.
Now you got a real chance for some action if you want to let him hit, you want to let him run, you want to let him hit and run. The game's kind of has a little lull right now. You can catch them on their heels defensively.
I hate it putting a guy in motion 2-0, even though Garcia's not a big power guy, because you've worked yourself into a count where you can zone in, middle away. And now if you're telling him, we're forcing you to swing the bat, this young kid hasn't yet established that he's a control pitcher.
Left center, Tuiasa Sopo with a diving catch.
Tell you, that's a tough read for a left fielder in this ballpark with this wind right now. The way you don't know which way it's going to curve, you know it's going to come back to you, but it's getting knocked down at the same time. And that's why it's kind of an unorthodox route, because he's continuing to read this ball the whole way as the wind does funny things to it. He can't run to an exact spot and just know it's going to be there. He had to adjust his route every step to get in line with that one.
A big second out of the inning, and back to the top of the Texas lineup now for Elvis Andrus, 1 for 3. Andrus went 5 for 5 last night.
It is a live arm, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Doug Fister and Derek Holland with the starters. Neither one of them got through the 5th inning. Neither one of them will be involved with the decision. Runner goes. Throw down, safe at second to Martin.
A great jump by Martin. I had no hesitation at all. You see him look back, but Andrus did a good job by faking the bunt, pulling his bat back slowly to keep the catcher Pena back on his heels a little bit. He can't jump out there when a guy does that. That split second gave Martin a chance to get in there. I think Jim Leland's thinking down there now. He's throwing hard.
Yep. Get it over the plate, please.
They've had to send out some other relievers. Al Albuquerque, Bruce Rondon back down in the minors, making some changes. Bringing up Ortega, and he walks Andrus. The tying run is aboard. The go-ahead run will come to the plate, David Murphy. Major League Baseball continues this week here on ESPN. Tomorrow night and Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. Both nights you can see the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. And then 1 week from tonight, we will be in New York as the Mets host the Atlanta Braves. All 3 games on ESPN and also live on Watch ESPN. Big situation here for the Rangers in the bottom of the 6th. Down 2 men on, 2 outs. Jose Ortega to face David Murphy with Lance Berkman on deck should the inning continue. Murphy 1 for 2 with a walk tonight. Robbie Ross now up in the Texas pen, having another outstanding season. And a borderline strike.
That's a little bit of a gift right there. Usually when you don't have very good control, you don't get those pitches, especially first pitch.
Murphy can hit a fastball now.
Oh, 2.
You hate that as a hitter. Guy can't come close to the guy before you, and he throws a pitch. He seems like a gift, and then he paints another one. And you're 0-2 with it. No clue what he's going to throw you now.
He's got a really good curveball if he can get it in the right area code. He's down and over the middle.
Maybe in the dirt will get him to swing too.
Getting a little poise, get some experience, but right now Jim Leland doesn't want him to get anything other than an out. Jim's like, I don't care if he's young or he can throw hard. Just give me some strikes. Get me in the dugout.
He's got a little jerk in his delivery. Right when he goes to land, it's like he doesn't completely believe it, and it just kind of takes him offline and makes that control very erratic.
If he hadn't thrown a breaking ball yet, this is about the only time he has left, isn't it?
It was, and it was a pretty good one, just wasn't offered at.
And the lead changes hands again. David Murphy on a full count pitch. Hits his 5th home run of the season. Texas is up 8-7. Berkman lines a base hit into center.
Well, the 3-2 pitch, he just threw a breaking ball down, and this is the only pitch of the at-bat that he threw middle into Murphy. And you said it a couple weeks ago, Earl. He said he looks to pull everything. I mean, that's a pitch right where he's looking, right where he's swinging. And the Rangers have another lead.
Adrian Beltre, 2 for 3. Well, that is a sharp breaking ball.
The first pitch to Berkman and that breaking ball are the best 2 pitches he's thrown this inning. I'll tell you what, but that guy's, the home runs he's hitting and the home runs the rest of the team is hitting. We talked about a complete lineup and they can get runs anyway. They also got some pop.
Base hit left field. Berkman to second. Beltre's 3rd hit of the game. And they're going to get busy in the Tiger pen, which has been used so much in this series, as the 4 starting pitchers combined to go only 15 innings in the 4 games. And as Jim Leland said before the game, they're fortunate they have an off day tomorrow because their bullpen has been worked hard.
Yeah, I would think that Smiley is probably the only guy that won't see the mound tonight, but everybody else is available, but they will need it tomorrow to rest.
Cruz takes a strike. Evan Reed is up in the pen. He pitched Thursday's game, went 2 2/3. Murphy with the 3-run homer to give the Rangers the lead. Detroit was up 4-1, Texas 5-4. Detroit 7-5, now Texas 8-7.
Watching Ortega pitch, you can just tell that the primary focus of his pitching ability is I want to try and throw it hard. He really hasn't learned the fact that control and location is the key. Doesn't matter 94 if it's not for strikes or not in the best part of the strike zone. Rather be 91, 92 and locate it.
It just seems like he abandoned pitches, or he threw a great breaking ball to Beltre for strike one. And then he throws another one that stays middle in, and he hits it. Now he's, against Cruz here, he's just, okay, I'm throwing 4 pitches now, and I'm going to abandon my my breaking ball. You got to throw it again, even if it's a bounce pitch.
Left it up, full count.
You get out there in these early innings or early outings as a youngster, and the adrenaline starts pumping, and the game starts moving really fast around you. You got to take those deep breaths just to remember where you are and who you are. And then these people chime in.
Bases loaded.
Might be a little stall to make a pitching change here. Just get some finishing warm-up tosses in the bullpen.
Reed continues to throw.
I think this is one of these early season. Let's see what the kid has.
He's going to leave him.
He's going to let him mature right before our eyes.
Much as it doesn't seem like it is still a one-run game.
Yep. And a ways to go.
And the only lefty he's faced is the one lefty he faced hit a home run off of him, and we know Moreland has that power too.
9th batter to come to the plate this inning. Berkman is at third. Beltre is at second. Cruz is at first. All of that happening after the home run by Murphy, and that happened with 2 outs in the inning. All of this coming with 2 outs in the inning as Texas has the lead back. Foul ball.
You are begging for that ball to be fair if you're Ortega. That's good.
Or
a little chopper.
And you're the 24 other active players on the Tigers roster.
There's the slider, 1-2.
That's a great pitch right there. Now you got to back it up. You got to find a way to make one more good pitch. I hope he bites. He's only been able to throw 1 in a row the whole inning. Just yanked that one all the way across the plate. That was supposed to be a fastball low and away, and he yanked it all the way in.
I don't think command's a strong point right now for Ortega.
34 pitches into the inning.
I think at this point you're happy you didn't throw a ball. You got to come back with a breaking ball, don't you?
Yep. A little off, get him out front.
Missed badly high with it.
Overthrows it, comes out the top of your hand, just spins up there like a cement mixer. Jim Leland getting older by the second watching this inning.
Ground ball left side. No play anywhere, and another run scores.
So you set the table for the offense. You finally throw some strikes. You get to a 2-2 count. He throws a changeup, kind of a firm changeup. And he breaks his bat, and just the baseball powers aren't with you at all. Just finds a hole.
And last year, that's a ground ball to second base or a swing through for Moreland. But as Washington said, he's learning how to go the other way, to where his strength used to be. He could stay on that changeup, and even though he hit it off the end of the bat, he still hit it in a place where there's no one to field it.
So the Rangers now hitting around. Soto coming up for the second time in the inning, already 3 for 3 on the night. He started this inning with a base hit to left field. A deep drive to center. Darks runs it down, saving 3 runs, and the inning is finally over. But the Rangers are back on top. Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of MLB. Try targeted relief with the power of Bayer Advanced Aspirin. By Toyota Scions, your local Scion dealer. And by Quicken Loans, engineered to amaze. David Murphy amazing with a 3-run homer that has given the Rangers the lead. They added on 1 more run after that and have a 9-7 lead as we go to the 7th inning. The Rangers scoring 4 in the 5th, 4 more in the 6th, up 9-7, and here comes one of their best, Robbie Ross, second-year left-hander. Outstanding rookie season, came to camp maybe with a chance to earn a spot in the rotation. A lot of arms were looking for that 5th spot. They wound up putting Ross back in the bullpen, and he's put up great numbers again this year. Matt Tuiasosopo, 3 plate appearances, 3 walks tonight. Not this time. A broken back ground ball to first, 1 down. Sports Center comes your way after the ball game tonight here on ESPN. Look at some of the big stories, including Tony Parker and the Spurs with a resounding win over Memphis in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. An update on the Stanley Cup playoffs. And our Sunday conversation with Bruce Arians tonight, Arizona Cardinals head coach. Johnny Peralta rips one into the left field corner. And the beat goes on. Peralta with his second hit, both of them doubles.
The Ranger ballpark at Arlington, some nights it plays like this. The hitters have all the confidence and are catching breaks and hitting the ball hard. The wind's blowing out. Starters no longer are here.
Does the wind cause the ball to drift over the center of the plate?
I'll tell you what, sometimes the wind is so strong here that when the pitcher lifts his leg, it does gust at you, ruins your control a little bit.
For 300 pitches of this game?
No.
Okay.
Once or twice a game.
Oh.
Ryan Pena, 2 for 3, looks at a strike.
You dislike pitchers.
No, I don't. They're a necessity to win. I understand that.
Yes, he did. 0-2. Well, if you're Ron Washington, believe it or not, as chaotic as this game has been, you've got it set up the way you want it right now. You've got Ross, then you've got Sheppers, then you've got Nathan. And there's Sheppers, who has been outstanding this year in a setup role for the Rangers.
Get warmed up. You got Cabrera.
Yeah. Strike 3 call.
I'm talking about setting it up, Dan. The Rangers are one of 3 major league teams that have not lost a game this season in which they've been ahead from the 7th inning on. So they're both.
We can go home?
No.
Okay.
We get to watch it. They've been pretty good after the 7th.
Here's Dirks.
Yanks.
On the appeal, he went. Well, another look at the Dirks catch last half inning. He doesn't make this play, guys. It's 12-7.
Yeah, that's a do or die. There's no way he was waiting to try to play that off the wall. He knew he had a chance and he went for it. Like you said, Dan, it's a great thing he caught her, else this game, well, I don't know. I'd like to say it would have been out of reach, but I doubt it. I don't think anything's out of reach in this one.
Early on, it was the Miguel Cabrera show. Now it's both teams just scoring like crazy the last couple of innings. And Cabrera will get another chance at some point. He's 3 for 3 with 2 homers and an intentional walk in this game. Ross trying to restore some order to this ball game.
I'll tell you, it's hard for the guys in the bullpen too to sit back and watch a game like this, know you're probably going in, and saying, you know, I got to go back into that. I got to go out there in that cauldron and figure out a way to get people out.
Strike 3 call. Dirks will argue that it was low. Phil Cuzzy rings him up. 7th inning stretch in Arlington. There have been many here tonight. David Murphy turning around a fastball on a 2-out full count pitch and drilling a 3-run homer just into the seats in right field, giving the Rangers the lead that they still have. 9-7 going to the bottom of the 7th. This is the Jeep game track. It has been a big night for Miguel Cabrera. He's hitting so well. He was intentionally walked with runners at first and second, his 4th time up. But it's David Murphy and the Rangers who have the lead as they come up in the bottom of the 7th inning. And yet another new pitcher. The eccentric and energetic Phil Koch is into the game for the Detroit Tigers. Just back off the DL from a groin problem, and Tiger fans remember fondly how well he did as the closer in the playoffs last year, Oral, after Jose Valverde couldn't get anybody out.
Yeah, he really came through. And you talk about a unique individual with a lot of energy. He's quite the guy. This is a typical bullpen guy. A little bit of a screw loose, but the kind of guy you want down there.
Nothing wrong with that.
Leonis Martin leads off the inning for Texas. And a slider in for a strike. That was the 301st pitch thrown in this game.
So I was pretty close.
You were just about bang on. And 400 may be a distinct possibility tonight.
Let's not go there, Dan.
Well, again, Ron Washington's got it set up right now, actually. Ross got through the 7th. Sheppers is up, getting ready for the 8th. And if the situation holds, it would be Nathan in the 9th. Sheppers with microscopic numbers so far this year. 95, 96 miles an hour with some movement. And there's Joe Nathan, over 300 saves in his career. Perfect so far this year in save situations. It gets past Tuiasosopo, and Martin is into second base.
Well, you're down 2 runs right here, and the last thing you want to do for the leadoff hitters is to put him on second base and take the double play out of order. And, you know, I understand if Tuiasosopo thought he could catch it, he should dive, but this ball is so far in front of him. That's when you have to play on the hop, even a short hop, and let it hit your body and keep it in front of you. Keep Martin on first base, keep the double play in order. Now you set up so many options right now for Ron Washington and the Texas Rangers. You can bunt Garcia right here to get Martin to third, and you have Andrus coming up, you know, to drive in the run, you know, with a fly ball. You always want to keep the double play in order as an outfielder.
And the Tigers in on the corners right now as Garcia turns around about a right-handed against the left-hander Koch. Pops the bunt back into the screen. Keep it on?
Yes. Prince is clamping down on him.
Throw to third, and Cabrera's not in the bag. Let's have a look and a listen. So that's Pena yelling and pointing. 3-3-3.
Yeah, and that's all on Miguel Cabrera. His reaction is to read the ball. If he knows Coke can get it, you bust it back to third base, and he didn't. He backpedaled, didn't get there, and now you're looking at a huge inning for Texas. Possibilities of a huge inning for Texas, unless Phil Coke can work some magic. And that's the last thing you want is first and third. Now, no outs. You have to put the infield in, basically take the double play out of order, because you have to try to stop this run from scoring and keep it a 2-run game.
The batter is Elvis Andrus.
And great bullpens will pitch out of these situations. You know, the mistake, first of all, by Tuiasosopo, diving for a ball he had no chance of catching, let Martin get the second. You know, and now you have a bunt play where it was executed perfectly by Coke. He busted to the third baseline like he's supposed to. Cabrera just didn't get back in time, you know, and that's on him. And you know, Pena was yelling 3, but Miguel didn't get back there. And you're looking at possible disaster here for the Detroit Tigers.
It wasn't even a matter of effort for Miguel getting back. I think he just assumed Coke wasn't coming to his area, so he just was standing there. You watch Cabrera on this bunt play, and he's just kind of hanging there, and he gets an assumption right about here in his head that he's not coming to him, and he's not even worried about getting back there. He's actually surprised.
And I understand, but it's a left-handed pitcher who that's his glove side. I mean, all he has to do is pick. There's no 360 turn like a righty has to make. It's an easier play for a left-handed pitcher. You got to assume that he's coming to third.
Exactly. I'm not sure even if he goes to third though that they get him.
It might not have, but you didn't give him a chance.
Right.
The responsibility to third baseman is if I'm not going to field the bunt, then I've got the bag.
SportsCenter comes your way at the conclusion of the ball game tonight. A look at the Spurs win over the Grizzlies in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, and also the latest on the Stanley Cup playoffs, plus a busy day around Major League Baseball, including Matt Moore becoming baseball's first 8-game winner today as the Rays beat the Orioles again. Two and two. The way this one's going, I mean, Ron Washington will take a few more. Nothing has been settled in this game tonight, and Cabrera is going to get up at least one more time.
And Phil Coke has finally got himself to a place where he might be able to pick up his defense. Even though you have no out first and third, you got a chance to strike him out right here. You get a left on left next batter.
Grounded to short, holds the runner, throws to first for the out, but on the play, Garcia went to second.
The whole infield is asleep right now. Yeah. Miguel fell asleep on the bunt play, the play out in left field, and now Peralta has got to go to second and keep the double play in order. And they're not going on contact. They know it's first and third. They go contact from first, but now he's got it right there, and Fonte's all over the bag, and they've got a chance actually.
What?
Not only that, Garcia stopped.
Play. What was he doing? Why would you run halfway and just stop on a force play?
So
it's not like you're trying to get in a rundown.
So who had a bigger brain cramp there, the shortstop or the runner? They both did.
Thing. And Jim Leland watching this has got to be like a volcano that might erupt if the Tigers lose this, and there might be a little clubhouse meeting.
Well, you got a feel for Coke. He got a bloop to left that bounced past Tuiasosopo for a double. Would have been a base hit, but it turned into a double. Then they don't get an out on a bunt where they should have gotten an out. Then they get the wrong out on a ground ball to short.
And what this does now is forces the infield to come in because the double play is not in order. They get the force at second. The double play is in order. You can move your middle infielders back.
And what Phil Koch does is he's out there just grinding away. I mean, that's how tough he is as a competitor. He's not hanging his head or looking at his fielders and waving his arms.
But when does it come to a point when you're in this situation, or if you're Phil Koch, you say, I have to strike this guy out. If he puts it in play, they're going to score.
You definitely got that in your mind. You got to compliment the effort.
Tuiasosopo setting up, makes the catch. Here's the tag. Safe at the plate. Runner takes third on the play. 10-7 Texas. Sac fly Murphy to score Martin.
And good base running by Garcia. You know, if the runner on third tags and goes, you might as well too. Hopefully they cut it and get a run down. But he made us, you know, Tuiasosopo. You know, Miguel Cabrera already chastised him once for not hitting the cutoff man, and this one, you know, I understand you don't want to bounce it, whatever, but to me it's easy for a catcher to catch a one hopper than it is to jump for a ball like Pena has to do right there with no chance of making a tag. At least a bouncer, if it's offline, Cabrera can cut it and do what he wants with to get it out at third or try to come home. But, you know, that throw there does no good to anyone because all you're doing is letting runners run around the bases.
So in this inning alone, an ill-advised dive by Tuiasosopo, a botched bunt play, the wrong throw made by Peralta, and then an improper throw made by Tuiasosopo. 4 defensive mistakes made by Detroit, none of which show up as errors. Now bullet up the middle by Berkman to bring in another run.
You're going to look in the box score tomorrow and you see Phil Koch and some earned runs.
And Jim Alila to making a move. You got to feel a little bit for Phil Koch. He deserved a better fate in this one. Evan Reed will make his way, and 2 more runs in for the Rangers. They now lead 11-7. MLB.com/Sunday to find special ticket offers. MLB.TV celebrating 11 years. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on your favorite supported mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. 11-7 for Texas. They've added 2 more runs here in the bottom of the 7th. The Tigers have really gift wrapped this inning for them, these 2 runs for them. Right-hander Evan Reed, called up on Thursday by the Tigers, made his major league debut Thursday night in the first game of this series, gave up a run in 2 2/3, claimed off waivers in April from the Marlins, originally a 3rd-round pick of Texas. Runner at first, 2 down, Adrian Beltre the batter, 3 for 4. And it's going to find its way into right field for a base hit. Berkman to second. That's the 17th hit for Texas. Sports Center next here on ESPN. The Rangers can afford to smile right now the way this one has turned around. They got 4 in the 5th, 4 in the 6th, and 2 more here in the 7th.
That might be me next week.
That might be you in about 15 minutes. Here's Cruz. I would imagine if the Tigers wind up losing this one, especially the way that they lost it, and losing 3 out of 4, that's going to be one quiet flight for them up to Cleveland after the game tonight.
That was an interesting pitching change by Jim Leland, because he went out there and the only guy that was with him was the catcher. The infielders were scared to come in and visit with him.
Been a part of those.
They weren't even on the dirt. They were all on the outfield grass.
No, they were trying to meet with Andy Dirks out in center. Get as far away from Leland as they could.
Hit pretty well down the right field line. Foul.
But the way this game's going, 4 runs. If they can keep it right here, if Reed can keep it here, you got 6 more outs.
Reed, the 5th pitcher of the night for the Tigers. Early on, it was a 4-1 lead for Detroit. Cabrera had homered twice. Doug Fister appeared to be in complete control of this game. Could not get through the 5th inning, and the wheels came off for the Tigers. And now a wild pitch will allow the runners to advance.
We haven't had one of them this inning.
Well, it's safe to say that this inning is not going to be on the Detroit defensive highlight reel this year. They're going to want to turn the page real quick when they get out of this one.
Peralta there to finally end the inning. 2 more runs for Texas. 11-7 Rangers. Ball presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Corona Light. Ditch the herd. And Edward Jones. Join the nearly 7 million investors who know FaceTime and Think Time make a difference. With Oral Hershiser, John Kruk, Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman. Top of the 8th here at Rangers Ballpark in Arlington. The Rangers up 11-7 on the Tigers in a wild one as Tanner Scheppers enters the game. Having an outstanding season. He has gone from a guy who was not expected to make the team at the outset of spring training to a guy who, through the way he pitched late in spring and injuries, not only did he make the team, he's become the 8th inning guy right now for Texas. And look at those numbers. That's why.
He wasn't even on the radar screen in spring training the last 3 weeks. How did Ron Washington put it? He put himself, he rose to the occasion and hasn't fallen off of it or something like that. I don't know. Ron's got some interesting sayings, but it was pretty much he got up there to the top rung and never fell down. And he's still there, 95 miles an hour, and he throws it for strikes.
Changed from primarily being a 4-seam guy last year to a 2-seam guy this year. And you can see the movement on that fastball, running it on the hands of Infante. Murphy makes the catch, 1 down. Let's go back, and if you're a Tiger fan, you'll want to avert your eyes. Go back to the bottom of the 7th. Crucky, 4 defensive mistakes in 1 inning.
Yeah, and this is one right here. You know, Tuiasosopo made a diving catch earlier in this game. He thought he could make another. So far short of that ball. Goes passing for the double, and then the bunt play right here. Coke, just perfect. And then this one right here with Peralta. I mean, Garcia stopped halfway to second base. I mean, it's an easy force out. The runner at third was back at the base. And then this sacrifice fly right here. Tuiasosopo again. Air mails it. Runner on second gets to third. And he scores on a bullet by Lance Berkman up the middle. Who knows if there would have been a play if he was on second, but no play, obviously, with the runner on third.
Here's Torrey Hunter. Hunter 1 for 4 tonight, an infield hit and 3 strikeouts. Miguel Cabrera is waiting in the on-deck circle for the Tigers. He's homered twice already in this game. Ground ball to short. And from a Ranger perspective, their bullpen, Ross and Scheppers, have restored order to this game to a certain extent. We'll see how Scheppers handles Cabrera, who has singled, homered twice, and been intentionally walked. And was intentionally walked with runners at first and second. The major league leader in batting average and RBIs. And right now, the advantage Scheppers have, if you can have one against Cabrera, is let him hit it a mile. You're up 4, throw strikes, just don't want to walk him. Throw strikes and see what happens. Wow. And he's got the stuff.
That's a 96 mile an hour 2-seamer with bite. There's a guy in Texas who used to do that. His name was Kevin Brown.
I mean, 96 with movement down and in on a lefty. Why wouldn't you throw that one again? Yeah. If he hits it, it's going to hurt.
Looks like he's about to.
Got in on him a little bit, and he still hits it. Out! Another home run for Miguel Cabrera. Three-home run night for Miguel Cabrera.
Scheppers tries to come down and in again. They got him to swing and miss on it. I mean, that pitch was up a little bit, but it was still in, almost off the plate. And he just pulls his hands inside that one. Oh, he's just better than everyone else. Let's just go with that. That's stupid good.
Cabrera now 4 for 4, 3 homers, 5 RBIs tonight, hitting .387 with 11 homers and 47 RBIs on the season, and this is the 42nd game of the year for the Tigers.
The most amazing thing about that ball for me is where he hit it. Most guys pull that ball and you get that inside swing and pull your hands in just to keep it barely fair. He almost hit that ball to straightaway center, pushing it off his belly button almost.
I can't explain it.
I've never seen it.
I've never either.
I have never seen a ball at 96 or whatever that was, 94, 96, running in on somebody's hands, pull your hands inside, and hit it out to pretty much center field.
Ball 4. And I bet you Ron Washington is already counting around and saying, I just don't want to see that guy in the ninth inning. I just don't want to see Miguel Cabrera come up again.
Just watch this swing. Usually these balls end up in base hits up the middle. He drops his back foot. He hits it all off his front leg. And he gets his hand so far inside it that he can hit it to center field.
Most guys there with an inside-out type of swing like that would hope you could bloop one over the second baseman's head.
Just fight it off.
Yeah.
He fights it over the wall.
Like Beltre did. He fought that one off in and hit that ball down the right field line his first at bat for a double.
3-homer game for Miguel Cabrera, yet the Tigers are still down by 3. A man on 2 outs, and Shepherd's will face Victor Martinez, who's had a very quiet night, 0 for 4, and hasn't hit the ball out of the infield.
He hasn't joined the party yet, Dan. Still hasn't.
Inning over. Miguel Cabrera continues to put on a show, but the Rangers continue to lead. In this game, but the Tigers still trail 11-8. As soon as this ball game is over, back to the studio for SportsCenter. We'll look at the Spurs taking Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals from Memphis in convincing fashion tonight, led by Tony Parker with 20 points and 9 assists. The Stanley Cup playoffs, an update on what's going on the ice, and the Sunday conversation with Arizona Cardinals head coach Bruce Arians. Mitch Moreland will lead off the bottom of the 8th against Evan Reed. Moreland tonight 1 for 3, has driven in a couple of runs. Texas has spread the offense around a lot more than Detroit has. Cabrera's driven in 5 for the Tigers, and Fielder's driven in the other 3. Base hit. 18th of the night for the Rangers as we go down to field level with Buster Olney.
As you heard Jim Leyland talk about the great at-bats the Texas Rangers have put against the Detroit Tigers during this series. Think about this. Tonight, the Detroit bullpen has been responsible for 68 pitches, 2 1/3 innings, and in this series, 16 1/3 innings, 276 pitches. Yes, Detroit needs the off day Monday.
They sure do. They're headed to Cleveland, a 2-game series against the Indians Tuesday and Wednesday. The first place Cleveland Indians, who beat Seattle again today, and the Indians about as hot as anybody right now. There's Giovanni Soto, 3 for 3, and would be 4 for 4, except he was robbed by Andy Dirks of what would have been a 3-run double his last time out. Ground ball to third. Second one. On to first. Double play. Nice job by Infante on a hard takeout slide there by Moreland.
Well, this is what you love about a guy like Mitch Moreland. You know, the game's a 3-run game, but you know he's trying to get more. He knows that wind's blowing out, and he knows Tigers have a pretty potent offense too. That's picture perfect. There's nothing dirty about it. Nothing anyone in Detroit can say anything to him about it. That was a great takeout slide. Still got the double play, but Infante will remember that for the next time.
Martin sharply hit, but a righted Peralta. Inning over. To the 9th in Arlington. The Rangers try to close it down with Joe Nathan heading to the mound. Texas trying to make it 3 out of 4 over Detroit in this series between a couple of American League heavyweights. A wild back and forth affair here tonight. Joe Nathan trying to nail it down. He's been perfect in save situations this year, 12 for 12. He's got 310 in his career, guys. That ties him with Goose Gossage for 19th on the all-time list. If he gets a save here tonight, he'll move into a tie for 18th with Tom Henke at 311. And most relevantly, maybe most importantly, Miguel Cabrera is a ways away. He is due up 7th this inning. He's got 3 home runs in this game.
If he comes up in this inning, he ain't facing Nathan.
Matt Tuiasosopo, Johnny Peralta, and Brian Pena, the scheduled hitters here in the 9th inning. 6, 7, and 8 for the Tigers. Tuiasosopo 3 walks and a ground out tonight. The Rangers stay home, open up a series with division rival Oakland. Detroit heads up to Cleveland, an off day tomorrow, and then a 2-gamer with the Indians beginning Tuesday. Nathan in his career, a 90% success rate in save situations. That is the best percentage in baseball history for pitchers with 200 or more saves. Velocity's not quite what it used to be. Good movement there on the slider. Swing and a miss, 1-2.
Well, that's better than Goose and Raleigh Fingers and Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman. Yep. It's pretty special.
Seven pitchers tonight for Texas. Derek Holland started it. 4 2/3, 4 runs. Ross Sheppers and Ron Washington hopes Nathan restoring order. And we're told even though Kirkman technically would be in line for the win, that the official score has discretion in this kind of a game, and apparently it would go to Ross if Texas can hang on and win it. Another slider down and away and a full count. Out of play. And the wind gusting harder now than it has all night long, and that's saying something.
Yeah. Don't let the direction of those flags fool you. That means it's hitting it and turning it right back around, going out to right field.
Walked him.
It's not real comfortable in the Texas dugout right now, even though they've had been perfect and safe situations. Never lost a lead after the 7th this year. This wind and this lineup they're facing. Nathan has 12 of those 13 for 13s.
It was the Pirates back in 2002, the last time that a team started a season as successfully in safe situations as the Rangers have this year. Here's Peralta, 2 for 4. And now he has to ask for time. The wind kicking up the dirt at home plate. Blowing debris all over the ballpark right now.
And in our press box.
It's like candlestick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except 50 degrees warmer.
Some good camera work when you follow that. That's a lot harder than a baseball player. He might not have the velocity he used to have, but he's got some really good depth on that slider.
Looked like he quick pitched him too.
One ball, 2 strikes on Peralta. Anybody hits a pop-up this inning, it could be a real adventure out there. Jim Leyland will not have many fond memories of this series, the way the Tigers have played. 2 starting pitchers hit very hard. Pfister couldn't get out of the 5th tonight. Off the end of the bat, roller to second. Out number 1, Tuiasosopo went to second base. And Elvis Andrus, the reason he's clapping is he's saying to Garcia, hey, way to just take the sure route. It's all about the outs right now, not about forcing the lead runner.
Back home? No, Cleveland.
So runner at second. That run doesn't really matter right now. The Rangers 2 outs away from victory. Brian Pena comes up 2 for 4. Tigers are one base runner away from bringing the tying run to the plate. Our Chevrolet player of the game tonight, an easy choice, Miguel Cabrera. 3 home runs, the second 3 home run game of his career. He's 5 spots away right now. Can the Tigers possibly get it around to him here in the 9th inning? Popped up. Garcia, 2 down. The Rangers are not away from improving on the best record in the American League, and if they win tonight, they would once again have the best record in all of baseball. They're 28-15, as are the Cardinals after winning again today. Texas, in spite of all the injuries they've had this year, the best record in baseball and the best record in franchise history at this point of the season. The batter is Andy Dirks. Did he get the bat out of the way? Was it fouled off? And it is a strike. You could see Giovanni Soto saying that ball was fouled off on the bunt attempt. And it's 0-1. Two. Ball game. Now ball game. Texas wins it. Joe Nathan, career save number 311 as the Rangers beat the Tigers in a wild one, 11-8, and take 3 out of 4 in the series down here in Arlington. A huge night for Miguel Cabrera. He hits 3 home runs, but it's not enough as the Rangers win. Major League Baseball continues on ESPN tomorrow at 7 with the Yankees heading to Baltimore. Sports Center is next. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Oral Hershiser, John Kruk, Buster Olney, and our crew, I'm Dan Shulman saying so long from Arlington.